All right, so we're gonna start this now. I'm not like super excited about this process, as I have never been excited about this process. I don't like updating firmware. I do it for a living on industrial equipment, and in my experience, it usually just leads to problems. But in this case, hopefully it will lead to a solution for you, because there's a reason you're watching this video, and it's either because you wanna learn about the Avanti S, the 18th anniversary 90mm Avanti, not Avanti S, just Avanti. It is Avanti S still. Yeah, it just doesn't say it on the box. But anyway, it's a 90mm jet. It's awesome, we hope. We're updating this so that we can have 20 channels, and you might be updating the NX7 so you can have 14 channels, or the NX8 so you can have, I believe, 20 channels, or the NX6 so you can have 14 channels. Just like this, the difference is the switches, the gimbals, the sliders. So keep in mind, you still need to buy the one that has the right number of inputs, human machine inputs, okay? So if you need more buttons, you need to get the NX8 or the NX10. I would suggest no less than the 10, because then you have all the ordinary inputs that you can have. And if you go up to an NX20, you're gonna have the same thing. If you go up to an iX20, you're gonna have the same, well, that's not true. I think they do actually add a couple more switches. So, but just keep in mind, you also have these little buttons here that I almost never use. They're clickers up and down, and then you can use these buttons as well. You can even use this button to do things too. But you're not gonna fly the plane with that, okay? Not generically speaking, okay? So it's very important that you guys understand these things, because really at this point, we're gonna update the firmware here, so that when we update the firmware here on this 8360T, which is what we're gonna be using for this model, but then I have to go through and update the firmware on all the rest of them so that I can have AS3X Plus on future models. Now, where it's gonna be critically important for a guy like me that doesn't do a ton of 3D flying is when I can separate out the nose wheel. So that's why we're going with the the AR8360T, is because we wanna have throttle, elevator, rudder, ailerons, flaps, retracts, thrust reverse, and what's the other pluggable?
Throttle.
We already did throttle. Nose wheel. In no particular order. Okay, so that's 8 channels. Those are 8 pluggable channels, because we want the rudder to be separated from the nose wheel. Okay, so when we do that, we're allowed then to put a higher gain so that when you're going down the runway, it just holds a straight line, like hard and fast, okay? So whereas the rudder in the air, you don't want it to start oscillating. I mean, you don't want it to do it on the ground too, but it's just, chances are it's not gonna do that. So we can turn the gains up a little bit higher. You can also have on the fly adjustments that are tied to throttle settings. So if you have a really high throttle setting, you can have more stabilization. If you have a lower throttle setting, you can have a lesser stabilizer when you're going very fast, because you need less of it. And then as a slow speed, you can have higher correction. Because as you know, when the plane starts to oscillate, that's usually because you're going really fast and it starts to get a self-induced oscillation. We can hopefully correct for that a little bit better with AS3X Plus. So that's why we need to update the firmware on this so that we can adapt to that. Now, keep in mind, AS3X, artificial 3-axis stabilization, and AS3X Plus are not the same thing, okay? If you do AS3X Plus, it's not like you can just go in and turn that feature on. You have to completely remake the model. You have to rebind to it, if I remember right, but I haven't ever done it. So forgive me for my inadequacies. I'm just gonna come right out and tell you this. The same way it always works with new technology. There's a first time for everything. This is a first time for me, okay?
And if you're ordering a new transmitter or new receivers, they're going to come.
They're going to come with either, this will either be branded as an NX10 Plus, or you can get an NX10 from a buddy and you can upgrade it. Obviously, if you want to support the channel, when you buy, just buy from the links, and then you'll get whatever they send you. And if you happen to get one that's not updated, you can update it. So you can update it in a bind and fly plane, okay? Now, the last bind and fly we did was the Extra 300. That's supposed to be the last factory release without AS3X Plus active, okay? You can actually update the firmware on that and make it AS3X Plus. So forgive the confusion. There will be some, plan on it. That's what we do best on Brian Phillips RC. But we're gonna help you guys to go from where we are now to where we need to be. And that's what we've always committed to doing on this channel, so we can help people that are coming back to the hobby and people that are brand new to the hobby. So obviously we got to take the staple out of this and get this receiver ready. Now there are a few tools you're going to need throughout this process, and I will talk to you about them. I'm not sure if we're going to need this to energize this, because we can actually run it from the USB port on our PC. Now we do have a PC. I have no idea if you can do any of this stuff with a Mac.
I don't think so.
I would assume you can't, okay? So just don't take it up with me. I didn't make the decisions. I don't use Macintosh products. I don't use Apple products. I don't know anything about it. This programming cable is the programming cable that we'll be using. Has this big, long, huge cable, and then it's got this thing. That's gonna go into the program/bind plug. And then this is the part number, and it has a bag that looks a little something like this when you first get it. This is the part number, but remember, we'll link to it so you guys don't have to find it, okay? It does come with a little adapter if you're using an ultra micro receiver. It's got that little micro pH connector, okay? Now, I don't think you have to update anything on serial satellite receivers, but it is possible that there's updates that I'm not privy to. If that comes up, we'll deal with it at that point. But for now, we're just worrying about these ones, okay? So real quick update. We're just gonna slide this out. Now this is the one we're gonna use for the plane, so obviously no harm, no foul, because we're opening it anyway for the plane. And a couple of things. We'll try not to dive into all the details about this Avanti, because this video is probably gonna be parsed out and released separately in addition to being part of the Avanti video, okay? So we have the receiver and we have this little funky cable. This cable is used to plug into that right there. And what that does is this then monitors the voltage on the pack, and I had that backward. This is a micro pH 1S connector. So it'd be like if you had a little micro pH battery. And then these two will be used to either pierce or get soldered on to the wire that goes into the battery plug, okay? So we'll deal with that when we get ready to finish our installation of the radio system over there. So that's ready to rock and roll, and that's just telemetry feedback. So you're like, how can you have a 6S battery going through that little dinky lead? Well, because there's no load on the other end. It's just a little surface mount chip that's mounted. We're not actually running a motor or an ESC or something, okay? So on here, if you look really close, it says bind program SRXL2, not to be confused with SRXL, okay? That is a different protocol, okay? So this is gonna plug in here. See how it says minus? So the minus is the brown, okay? So he's gonna plug in like that, okay? So just like that. And when you're ready to bind this to the plane, by the way, you can actually use a bind plug, or you can just press this button. You don't have to use needle nose pliers. I just wanted to get my finger out of the way so you could see that it was a button. Now, when we plug this into the computer, it's gonna wake it up, because there will be some energization that comes from the computer if you want it to act that way. But the way you control whether or not it does update is by actually using the software. Now there's software that you have to download from Spektrum. Okay, so we have nothing super damning on the screen, so we don't, I think it's pretty safe stuff, but we'll just kind of focus on what we're doing. So this is the Spektrum USB link, okay? And then this is the programmer. So we're gonna open this programmer, and we're just gonna kind of like pan to me while we're working. Okay, so it shows like a list of a few different items here that we've got. It's nothing special, but this is from my stuff. Okay, yours might have like 5,000 of these. It may have one, I don't know. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna update the software on this. Now, real quick update. You can update this to latest and greatest firmware, and I believe you can still connect to a not updated firmware on this, but the idea is you want them both updated. So we really got to do both of them. But since we've already dug into this, why don't we go ahead and jump into this real quick. We'll see what happens. We have a little USB hub because it's a laptop. It's only got one USB port. So we're going to plug this into the USB hub. If we have any problems because of that, we'll deal with it and point out the details. Okay, so this is picking up the device here, the dongle, not necessarily the receiver, okay? So this says I'm logged in as Brian, okay? So it'd be logged in as you if it was something else. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just go to connect power cable. To ensure your computer is not damaged, be sure there is no battery plugged into the receiver with this computer cable as power. That's because this would be passing BEC voltage potentially back out, the positive and negative, and then it would go through and it could fry your USB port. I don't believe you would typically do that on a 6-volt line, because normally we're like 5 volts or 5.5 volts. But if you're up at like 8, something like that, you could actually damage the port on your PC, so be careful, okay? So I'm gonna go ahead and power the cable. The model settings on this device do not match those on the computer. Which would you like to use? Doesn't really matter. So we'll just use the device settings, these. Okay, so now we have an AR8360T receiver, as you can see here, okay? So we should be able to go to edit. Look at that, amazing, right? Okay, it looks pretty straightforward. More. So you can reset, you can duplicate, you can export, and whoops, I wanna have this one, and what I wanna do is I wanna do a software update. So there's the receiver. We got some schmutz on the screen. So it shows the software version 2.37. And I'm gonna pull this back so the camera crew can reach, and I'm gonna move myself a little bit. Okay, so the online update, you need to log into your spektrumrc account and register this device to check for an update. So check for an update, or you can, or it looks like file update, you can install new software from an update file. So I'm gonna go to check for an update. So when it says check for an update, it says you need to register this device to your spektrumrc account before checking for an update. So it's got the serial number. I'm not gonna put a nickname in there. Please notify me about Spectrum updates. I'm just gonna check that, and then I'm gonna register the device. So now it's registering the device. It says online upgrade version 2.48 is available. Do I wanna install? Install. Okay, blah, 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 blah. So it's updating the device, and you can see there's a little status light on here now that we are powering it, okay? So this is how easy it is to update this. Now, I think there's one more update we have to do after this, and so it's not like a real hard process, but it is a process that most of you won't wanna have to do, like me, because I have to do it like 16 more times.
Right.
So the device was successfully updated, it claims. So now we should see it at 2.48, so we hit okay. The model settings on the device do not match those on the computer. Use the device settings. I don't care because it's just a blank model. And it says no new software version is available at this time. Okay, so install another version. And then it says there's 3.1.3. See that? Look at that. See? If updating from version 2.x, make sure to update to conversion 2xx something first. Where is that? I wish this was a little bit more easy. Oh, there it is, version 3.1.3, AS3X plus update, July 18th of 2024, okay?
So do we need to do that one first? Is that what it's saying?
Conversion. This firmware will perform some tasks to make a 2.xx receiver compatible with 3xx firmware. Yeah, so I'm gonna just go update.
And I think it's important to read the next sentence while that's going, that says there is no going back.
You can't.
Once you...
But you don't have to use AS3X Plus.
Right.
Okay, so now look, now it says version 3.0.
Okay.
Now we need to install another version. So now we can go to this. We can update. So that just basically means that we updated 3 times. It wasn't hard. It didn't take but a minute or 2 to do. The biggest issue is I have to remove staples from every one of my packages, and then I have to like somehow earmark each package that says version 3.1.3.
Yeah.
Because this is version 3.1.3 now, and it came up from version 2.27 or whatever it was. So the device is successfully updated, okay? So now we hit okay. And then basically it's done. Now it's got everything here, and it shows the software version is 3.1, not 3.1.3, which is sort of weird. So now if we go to install another version, you can only go back to, yeah, it looks like pretty much it's got all the beta releases and all that stuff, but you're not gonna be able to do it, okay? So at this point, this thing, it's not bricked, it's just updated, okay? Now I'm gonna go ahead and I don't think I need to really do anything other than it says cable and device connected. I'm gonna unpower the cable, and you'll notice the light comes off. So when I power the cable, it's gonna give me the prompt. See, now it's on, okay? So the other thing that's kind of interesting about that is I could go in, make a model, and I could actually connect to it and see the device information. But I gotta now update my software on my transmitter, which is the next thing we're gonna do. And maybe off camera for a few days or weeks, we might update the other ones. But before I make the dive, the plunge, and updating the others, I want to make sure I can get this done. So the first thing I'm going to do is camera crew is going to basically be careful here. I'm going to hit cancel and back from the function list. Okay, from the function list, cancel and back. That puts me, whoops. Sorry. I'm just going to click and I'll scroll down to system setup. This is a part where I'm just going to have to be careful. So system setup, disconnect RF. Then I'm going to scroll down to Wi-Fi utilities. Where is update? System settings. Okay, so then I'm going to go over here. You don't need to pull away from it.
Okay.
I'm just going to go. I'm trying to remember where the update is. My apologies, guys. I know it's in here, but I think it's under Wi-Fi utilities. So I'm going to do this off screen for just a second. Connect to network, erase credentials, save networks, connect to network. That's not what I'm trying to do. About regulatory. I'm at 3.12a as an NX10. I'm scrolling through, just verifying. Yep, so that's everything there. So I got to figure out, we're going to pause and I'll find it and come right back. Okay, so what we're doing now is we're connecting to the Wi-Fi. So I went to Wi-Fi settings and then I connected because I don't have auto connect on. The reason we don't have auto connect on is because I don't really want it auto connecting and I don't use the Wi-Fi on my transmitter that much. So I just assume not have that RF going and not have that, you know, function turned on all the time. I don't really need it connected all the time. There's some drawbacks to that, and namely, when I need to do something, I have to remember how to do it. And so once it attempts to connect, it always takes forever to connect. So that can be a function of our routing through, we use a T-Mobile 5G service. Previously we used Starlink, and before that we used Viasat, which was very expensive and very crappy. Starlink was okay. T-Mobile's been the best so far. But when you're out in the boonies, it costs a lot more to get internet. And so T-Mobile's been great, and all we had to do was buy a $500 antenna to help us.
To look at on our deck.
Yes, that's an antenna. It's called a waveform antenna, by the way. They have a corner on the market, so if you go to try to find another one, you're just gonna find a waveform called something different. So as you can see, it's not connecting, so I'm gonna hit back. And I'm guessing that the password or something isn't quite right. In our case, it says, I'm just gonna back out of it and I'm gonna see if I can back out again and back out again. So it's under system settings. I'm gonna go to Wi-Fi utilities, okay? And then I'm gonna pull away the screen so you guys don't see it. It says connect to network, save next networks, and then erase credentials. So I'm gonna go to connect network and then I'll just turn away. And it says checking for updates, twiddling thumbs, it's loading. So then it brings up our available Wi-Fi choices. And it shows the decibel reading of the connection. So I am going to, again, try to connect and see if it goes this time. I know this is always the way it goes, so I don't worry too much about it. If you guys have a more reliable, a little bit faster, a little bit less out there in the boonies connection, you're probably gonna find that this works a little better for you. So we'll pause while we get this connected. Once we're connected, I believe this is where we can check then for software updates or firmware updates for the NX10. So we'll come right back when we get it connected. Okay, so my SSID password had decided to be really long. I had to retype it in. And once I typed in the correct password, instead of seeing all the asterisks, it went shorter when I typed it in. I don't know why, but then it connected. It said obtaining an IP address and it connected. So it looks like this. It says connected, continue. Then of course the Wi-Fi signal shows up there. So I'm gonna hit continue. It gives me the spectrum menu of login, register, deregister, check for updates, log out, and credentials. That's what I see. I'm not logged in, so you see how it skips over those? So I have to go to log in. Now remember guys, this is stabilization is different from Horizon Hobby. And then, so just so you guys can see, you can't tell what the password is, but this is what happens. The password looks like that, okay? You have to type it in properly, which sucks, because if you have a long password, it's really a pain in the neck to type in. So I have to type in my username and password, so we'll be back after we type that in. So I highlighted login, I logged in. I am now able to check for updates, except it evidently didn't work because I used the wrong password. There's two different passwords. One of them is a firmware password for my Spectrum firmware stuff, and then one is just Spectrum. So I gotta try the other one. So I tried my other password and now it's allowing me to check. So after it says twiddling thumbs, it's gonna look like it worked if you put in the wrong password, but then it's just not gonna let you do the things you need to do. So in my case, I'm gonna check for updates, okay? So that's where you're gonna click. Now, if you're logged in and you're always on Wi-Fi, this is like literally a 3-second thing. It's just like scrolling through any other menu. The only reason it's different for me, I'm gonna click, check for updates. It says thumbs twiddling and loading. And so I gotta keep this turned away because I never know. Okay, look, so it shows what's installed, okay? So basically what I wanna do is the latest and greatest, okay? So then it's gonna do that and I just have to turn this away. I'm sorry, just because there's sensitive stuff sometimes. Okay, so it's installing this. Now, just so you guys know, this is where you get burned if your internet is less than stellar. Because if it doesn't go through the process, it's a real pain in the neck, because then you have to go and you have to find this. Then you have to insert it on like your hard drive, your external hard drive, and then basically hope to God that everything works. So I'm like always really dainty with this stuff because this is the time where it's gonna be a real pain in the neck. If it fails to do this install, it's gonna be a pain. I've been through it twice before. I think when we went from the 6 to the 8, we had problems. When we went from the 8 to the second 8, we were fine. When we went from the 8 to the 10, we had problems going to the latest update, which is 3 times. So the firmware updates are not a hard thing to do. So it's not something to be afraid of. It's just for us, it's harder because we have so much inventory that we're trying to get ready to go. That it ends up we trip over ourselves for that.
Well, and we want to show you the step by step, but it's hard to do when it's...
Yeah, it's hard when there's like security things involved. Right. So what's gonna happen is, probably what we're gonna do is we're gonna get this done, we're gonna make sure this works, and then we'll go through and we'll just update our other receivers and probably take a sticky note, cut it up with scissors and say updated, and then we know. Because then we can make the decision to go with AS3X Plus, even if it's not absolutely necessary. We know that that's gonna be kind of the wave of the future going forward. Now, everybody understands when you're paying for the premium product, and when I say premium, I mean, AS3X is not the most expensive stabilizer you can get, but it's the most expensive stabilizer I'm gonna get right now in this stage of my flying, okay? Later on, when I go to something more advanced, a little bit bigger, I'm still gonna be using Spektrum stuff, but I will be going to their more expensive offerings, okay? So it is a different product than AS3X Plus. So that being said, we're gonna let this finish up and come right back. Okay, so the download procedure is done. Now it says the file name, blah, 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 blah. Do not power off the radio during the update process. Please wait at least 5 minutes before assuming there is a problem. That's always nice.
What's the handy note?
So I'm clicking install. So 5 minutes would be, in about 5 minutes, it's gonna be about 6:15. That'd be our time, okay? So it's gonna go back and forth. It's gonna have like lines that go both directions, completely ambiguous information. You have no clue, something's going out, something's coming in, something is going out, something's going in, blah, blah, blah. This is gonna take longer the more models you have in your model memory.
Oh.
Okay?
Okay. And
so it should have said for Brian Phillips, if it takes more than 6 years.
Then there's a problem.
So while that's happening, what we're gonna do is we're probably gonna pause because there's like literally no value in watching this. I'd like to be able to describe the entire process. But what I'm probably gonna do is I'm just gonna let this run. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna maybe look at a couple other receivers and make sure we don't run into problems while we're waiting for it, okay? Okay, so just so you know, it's done. It took about 5 or 6 minutes. Yeah, 5 minutes to be exact. And right here, you can see while we were waiting, we used this one, pulled it out of the package, and we just got done updating. It's basically 3 updates for us because we go to the current, latest and greatest, then we go to the conversion, then we go to the 3.1.3, okay? So basically you go for the latest and greatest in the 2 world, 2.48 in this case. From 2.48, we went to a conversion 2.XX to 3.XX conversion update. Then we go to 3.1.3. Of course, if you're watching this video in like 2025, then there's a good chance there's another number out there. But if you are going from an older to a newer, you're still gonna have to convert from the 2.XX to the 3.XX. So technically, because the latest and greatest allows for the conversion firmware to go in, You have to get to the latest and greatest in the 2 before you could get the conversion to 3. Okay. So it's latest and greatest, then the conversion, then the latest and greatest in 3. Make sense? Mm-hmm. If it doesn't, just do those things. All right, so I can hit OK. So I'm done with this one. And we can basically just unplug this. And all I'm gonna do is just unplug this. And then just to give you guys an idea of how I'm handling my inventory, and anybody like me is gonna have inventory, you're gonna have a handful of these sitting waiting to go into the next planes that you don't quite yet have. So I like to repack them in the package so that they look exactly like they were brand new, because then when we're unboxing them, we can show the audience what it would look like if you got it from the hobby shop or if you had ordered it from horizonhobby.com, which by the way, when you do order, you're supporting Brian Phillips RC financially because we get small commissions from your orders, provided you follow the links. Please do that. It helps to fund the channel, and it also helps us to cover some of our time. And remember, it's not just me, it's not just Brian, it's Brian and all the kids and everybody else involved. Okay, so this one's updated. So my thinking was, you guys can all do what you want. Now that I know this is a 3.1.3, there's 2 ways. I can either mark this, which I'm gonna do. This is a 3.1.3. That's pretty dang hard to see. So I am going to do, am I gonna do a different one, hun?
I was just thinking, as long as it has a plus on there, we'll know that it's been upgraded to the AS3X plus.
Yeah, so I was just, yeah, that's the version 3.1.3, okay? So AS3X plus, AS3X plus, okay? So then when we make that mark, we'll know going forward that when we grab out the AR637T, it's already been updated, but also we'll know that the staple's been popped out. We just don't ever want you guys to think that we're trying to pull faster on you. There are some logistical things that we have to do in this channel that just don't really make sense to share because there's a lot of privacy issues that come into it with logins and passwords and things like that. So don't take it the wrong way. We just can't put ourselves out there that much. We already do it enough as it is. Okay, so this thing came back on as usual. Obviously, we unplugged this one from the program software updater, which is, I believe it's called the transmitter receiver USB programming cable, okay? So we'll link to that. And so far, that's all we really needed. We can't obviously link to the computer. You're gonna have to provide your own computer. But the software we're using is called the Spectrum Programmer Beta, okay? So about the Spectrum Programmer, this is 3.6, okay? So it's obviously gonna update on its own. You can download that from spektrumrc.com, okay? So just follow our links. You can buy this, and then you can follow the links there to go over. Remember, when you update things, when you register things on Spectrum RC, you actually register them in a different website. It redirects you and you have different password. You have the same login credentials, so the same username, or you might just use the same username, and then the passwords are different then. So it's only just slightly confusing.
Especially if you don't do it very often.
Which we don't.
Right.
So now that we are in, like we're in this particular model, this is the Kevin, one of those, that one right there.
Yes.
Okay, so as you can see, that model is sitting there, and basically it looks like, ooh, logical switch setup, combo switch setup, pretty cool. So there's a couple of new things in there, and change status, wow, I don't know what all that is. But anyway, you can see, and then it looks like the menu structure here until you turn it on is gonna probably be the same. Keep in mind that just because you updated the firmware doesn't mean that you're gonna be speaking AS3X Plus. You're not gonna be using AS3X Plus, which is all driven through the Ford programming setup, okay? So you still have the wing type, all that stuff set up here, and then you have the Ford programming which activates the features. Okay, so now that we have this updated, okay, we can go ahead and more or less ignore the computer for the moment. We'll just get that closed and set that aside for now. And then off camera, we'll finish up our batch of updates, okay? That'll be super fun to look
that
forward
was
to.
That was
actually
not that
really
bad.
To be honest with you, it took us, plus a bathroom break and screwing around on other like small things, it was probably half an hour.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as painful as I thought, but we haven't done the painful part yet. Oh. Okay, so now back to the radio setup. The reason we are doing radio setup as part of this video on the Avanti, which is ironic because it's an FMS product and not a Horizon product, is because that's where we tend to use receivers, because receivers are needed in plug and play aircraft. And a lot of what we do that's plug and play ends up being FMS models, okay? It's not a free wing, it's not a flight line. Maybe someday it will be, but I'm not holding my breath. So
but we'll do it with the
cabins and dynoms and things like that.
Yeah.
Whatever we end up stumbling into, that's what we're gonna use it on. So it just happens to be that it's an FMS today, okay? So if you're watching this for the Avanti S90, don't worry, you haven't fallen off your rocker. This is all part of the plan. We just knew we eventually had to do this adaptation, and here we are, okay?
Yep.
So that being said, we know we eventually have to mark the CG. We know we eventually have to finish our installation with these control arms, okay? We have to install those to the control arms, the ball linkages. And of course, we're gonna have to put the canopy on, and we're gonna have to set up the battery and figure out how we want to place that to get the CG right. So there's quite a little bit left, but at this point of the video, we're going to continue the radio setup as though it were a normal aircraft. Now, we have this plug that's going to go and tap the power cord. So with respect to this plane, that's going to fall at the end. We'd normally do that at the beginning, but because we want to make some sense of this AS3X update video, we're going to jump into the radio setup first. Okay, so where do we start with the radio setup, camera crew?
I'm assuming we're still going to build a profile.
We have to build a profile, okay? So first thing we do is we cancel and back at the same time, add new model. We're going to create an acro. Let's see if there's any new types. Doesn't look like anything new. It's all the same stuff we had before. So creating an acro is pretty simple. Takes longer if you have like 200 plus models in here. There is a limit technically to 250 models in Spectrum Airware. I don't know why. Maybe they just say because it slows down quite a bit. I've noticed it slows down quite a bit, and we got to be getting dang close to being out of memory. When we run out of memory, I'm actually not sure what I'm going to do, because there's some planes that we've like sold, crashed, you know, given away.
Stuff in there that's not.
We have some stuff that doesn't exist anymore, but I just don't like wasting my time going through it. Okay, so model select we just got done with. Model type, that's already set. Model name, this is where we're going to type it in. So it says 219, but you got to remember there's also a number up above that started from, you know, like 1 through 19 and then like 1 through 48 again. Yeah, from when we had the NX6 and the NX8. Because we've had a total of 1 NX6, 2 NX8s, and then the NX10. All right, so we're going to type it in real quick. It's going to be the Avanti. This is actually the FMS, and we'll get that typed in and come right back. All right, so we have the FMS Avanti 18th 90 millimeters. Okay, so it's the 18th anniversary edition. Okay, so then the aircraft type, we're gonna set it up for a normal tail and a normal wing, except we need flaps. So now, of course, you could set up different setups for the wing type, but just remember, you've got this little mixing board thing. Can you put that up there so they can see the mixing board? So that board is gonna make it a little bit harder on some aspects. You can still split out stuff. I'm not interested in it because I just want to see how this works. Also, there's another trick on here. I don't think you have to do it, but you can also set it up so that you have twin tails, dual rudders. But I don't want dual rudders because I don't want the steerable nose wheel to be identical. That's the whole point, is we want one to be different from the other, okay? So we can do a normal. Okay, select image, standard file. So we'll just do like the Habu looking thing. Or do they have any more jets in here yet?
Doesn't look like it.
Looks like the standard files are there. Now, of course, you can load your own images, but we'll do that one. Okay, so flight mode setup. I am going to go ahead and set them up on switch D. Why switch D? Because I use switch A for retracts. I use switch B for flaps. I use switch G for thrust reverse, and I use switch H for throttle cut. You can do whatever you want. I use this for master gains, but it might be a little different this time. I'm not sure. Okay, this is going to be AS3X plus, then it's going to be off, and then it's going to be safe. Okay. So I can go to spoken flight mode, and I can change this. Remember, this is just labels. It doesn't actually make the settings. So I'm going to click cancel, cancel, and then that clears the words, so I can type in the words AS3X. But I think in this case, I normally would say AS3X plus, but I'm going to just go ahead and do AS3X, excuse me, AS3X plus. I've noticed my scrolly wheel getting kind of bad again. So I'm going to do a plus sign, right? Is that what?
Yes. That's what I would do.
Okay, so AS3X Plus now. I don't think they're going to have one that says Plus, but we're going to see if they do. I doubt it. I don't think it's really going to change anything in terms of the way it functions once you've set it up. It's more that there's different setup involved. Okay, so there's safe, and just past it should be AS3X. Then this one is going to be off, so I can highlight cancel, cancel, OFF. And guys, every single time I fly somebody else's plane, they never have this stuff labeled. It is really annoying. Every time.
Every time?
Every time. Every time.
Every time.
Okay, so we're going to off, which is kind of in the middle. And this is just, again, a label. Okay, and then this one's going to be safe for sensor-assisted flight envelope, cancel, cancel. And then I'm going to type in the word S, or it's going to actually be the acronym SAFE, sensor-assisted flight envelope. You remember when I used to say sensor-aided flight envelope, which was so wrong and so different.
Someone corrected you so rudely.
Yes, after many, many years of doing it wrong.
Saying it wrong.
Okay, coming up.
Oh, I'm so glad they didn't capitalize the M in mode.
Ugh, goodness gracious. All right, so channel assign. Holy crap.
Oh my goodness.
Look at all this. Look at all these channels.
Wow.
There's more of them now.
That's crazy.
What the heck are those?
Wow.
Look at that. There's stuff over here.
Empty.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
DX18 compatibility.
What now?
It says DX18 compatibility.
Whoa, 14. So this is what we had. The hybrid. And then look, now all of them go up to 22.
Wow.
And then these ones are the digital ones, the higher speed. So that's kind of cool. But I'm going to just put it back to, crap, what was it at?
Default, right?
Was that what it was? And then that was active. 12 at 22. Oh, when I changed it, it turned the X Plus off. That's pretty cool. Wow, that's neat. Okay, so lots of interesting things. Just scrolling through real quick. All right, so we're going to walk out. Okay, so we have an initial, holy jeez, look at all that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20.
Wow.
That's so cool. Awesome. Okay, so we have no way to really impact change on these because we haven't set anything up. But you can also see how it says AS3X Plus. That's my label, guys. That's my label, guys.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
I want to point that out clearly so that it's not confusing. Okay, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn on throttle cut to switch H. Okay, then I'm going to look down here and I'm going to look at, yep, minus 100. Perfect. Throttle cuts off. Throttle's up. Throttle's down. Beautiful, right? Throttle cuts on, minus 100. Okay, so now at this point, we can scroll over one and we can see where to plug everything in. Pretty sweet, right? Amazing. Okay. So we're gonna have to make a decision on the steerable nose wheel. But let's go ahead and get this thing wired up first. The wiring should be relatively easy on this. Remember, this is gonna be for both videos. This is gonna be for the Avanti and it's gonna be if you're just watching this for the first time. Keep in mind, if you're watching this video and you're like, but Brian, my plane is a high wing trainer, it doesn't change the way you set it up until you get to the fine tuning, okay?
Right.
So that might change the way we do some setup, but for now, we have to make a decision on where this is gonna ultimately mount. And so at this point, I think what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and just hold this out of the way for now. I know this one here off camera, I chased that down. That one says rudder, so I clearly know that that is gonna go to my steerable, okay? Otherwise, that's gonna plug into the port. Can you hand me that?
Forceps?
Thank you. So then down here, I'm gonna grab this and I'm gonna just real carefully pull this through so that it goes on the same spot with all the other receiver plugs, okay? So now the reason we're doing this is because, and by the way, these are always the most dainty, crappy cables that go to the steerables.
Yeah, why are they different?
I don't know. Trying to save a buck, I guess. I don't know. It's not just FMS, that's everybody. Okay, so we've got throttle. This is gonna be thrust reverse. We already know that. So I'm just assuming at this point, we're gonna plug it in how it reaches. So we're on port 2, or excuse me, throttle is gonna be on port 1. So you can tell from looking at that. So then the thrust reverse is gonna be on one of these upper channels. So you just need to plug that yellow cable into the signal part, which will be the top part. How do we know? Because it says S plus minus. So minus is black if it's Futaba, or brown if it's Hextronics, JR color code. So brown is ground, then positive is in the middle on both red, and then signal is lighter or orange, yellow, whichever color you want to call that on Hextronics, JR, and on Futaba it's gonna be white, okay? So this one here is the Futaba color code. So we'll come back to thrust reverse at the end. So where is rudder? Okay, rudder is
on 4.
on channel 4. Okay, so we need orange to go up, orange to glad. So that's actually the 5th port, okay? So I'm gonna just grab these labels and slide them back just a little bit as we go so we can see what's going on. Then the next one that comes out at me is gonna be ailerons.
Ailerons is 2.
So ailerons, brown is down, port 2. So guys, if you're brand new to Brian Phillips RC, what we do is we take you from the chair to the air, or at least we do our best to try to get you in that situation where you can make the decision to do that yourself. We don't do a lot of fastest, bestest, cheapest. That's lies from Satan. And we want to tell the truth here on this channel, the full truth, and nothing but the truth. We want you guys to have a good experience, and your RC dollars only go so far, and we understand this. So you're here for good reasons. We want to take care of you. So flaps, where are we putting
6.
flaps? Channel 6. Did we already make an assignment on that?
No.
Okay, so we're just gonna assume that that's correct for now because gear retracts are gonna be on channel 5. Okay, so channel 6, and of course it's marked on the cabinet, so it's pretty straightforward stuff. They are keyed on Spektrum, so there's a little diagonal. That went to 7, whoops, there's 6. Okay, normally I'd plug them in order. So we know that thrust reverse has to plug in somewhere, and I don't like how that's on top of everything, so I'm gonna go under. Do the good old reach around. There it is. Okay. So then what else do we have? We have elevator.
Elevator is going to be on 3.
Okay, so elevator is going to be on 3. Okay. Bring this to the bottom. Brown is down. If you're brand new on Brian Phillips RC, but you're just returning to the hobby, we're welcoming you back with all this heavy technology. Don't worry, it'll get easier. I'll be a little bit more well-versed on this as I get used to it myself. Gear, as you can
5.
see.
Is that the normal gear?
That's the normal gear.
Yep.
As in retracts.
Retracts.
Which would be nice if there was a distinguishing way of saying that, but to date, I don't know that there really is a great way of doing that. I don't like flaps the way that they tangle. I'm gonna untangle them right now, and I just did. So brown is down on 6, and then gear is going in, slipping in right between them. You'll notice that I pull my paper labels back so that they're out of the way, okay? So that's a splitter that goes into a board that's a mixing board. Kind of a strange thing to do if you ask me, but whatever, nobody asked me.
So now you should be left with thrust reverse and steerable nose gear.
Steerable nose gear, okay. So let's do thrust reverse on 8, because that'd be more consistent with, well, nah, I don't know that it really matters. Let's plug it into 7.
Okay, so thrust reverse on 7.
And then we'll do the other rudder, which is gonna be steerable. It's gonna be on channel 8, okay? So now that's literally as easy as it gets. There's a couple different ways this can be mounted. You can use double-sided tape, you can use glue, you can use all sorts of complex methods. But my biggest thing is, I wanna make sure we don't undermine AS3X Plus, since it's the first time we're showcasing it. And also, I don't like that that went over the top. What is that? Oh, that's going here. It's not actually, ooh, but it's tangled. I have to untangle this cable. You see what I just did there with my fingers?
Was that the thrust reverse?
The thrust reverse was tangled around one of the leads.
Okay.
I think it went back to the elevator rudder. Okay, see these two? Mm-hmm. So I want those out of the way. So I'm actually just gonna throw those back. Just hope for the best. There is this unplugged thing that came from the ESC. I don't know what the heck it is. It's a white cable. It's a Futaba color cable. And then there's this, which I don't know if that's gonna be for future use or what, but I hate that it's just loose. So what I wanna do now is, before I get too excited, I'm just gonna show you. You could mount this right here and be happy with it if that fits with the canopy, but I don't like having that in the way. And then also this is gonna drop down and it's gonna have a lip that goes into the foam. So we don't wanna compromise on that. Plus eventually we're gonna have this in here. And I hate to do it to you guys that are watching this just for the AS3X Plus, but you're just gonna have to wait and see and watch this along with us because it's gotta happen at this stage. Okay. Because I'm not gonna get my cable management done 3 times. Okay, so this is what I do. You don't have to do it this way. I twist this like that, and you see how it's like slowly protruding from my hand? So as I do this, I just do a couple, about a ½ inch at a time. Just twist it. Now you can also chuck this into a drill, and once you chuck it into the drill, then you can spin this up really quick. Now, why not shorten it? Because I want it to reach way back there so that it doesn't interfere with our ability to plug in the cable for the battery. I've had really good success doing this. And I think in all but like maybe one plane, I've been very happy with the way it worked out. And yes, this is the laziest and easiest way to do it. You can do it on a more permanent fashion if you want to get out the soldering iron. It's really not that big a deal, but it does take skills that some of you might not have. And since not everybody knows how to solder, which to be honest with you is a pretty easy skill if you ask me, I would suggest you learn to solder. It's not a hard thing to do. I would definitely do it. This is gonna now go under, okay? And it's gonna come back up, okay? So I need to send this under so that it can go where the receiver is. It's gonna be on the downside here. And I realize some of you are probably thinking, Brian, you interrupted yourself. I do that sometimes. When that happens, that means that I changed what I was doing because I realized I was forgetting something, okay? So I'm gonna now take this and I'm gonna plug this into the only micro pH connector, 2S connector, or excuse me, 1S connector. So meaning one cell in series or a 1 cell pack, 1 cell LiPo, however you wanna look at that. And then that can be just tidied in with all the rest of the cabling. Okay, now this comes around the backside and this needs to be gouged in to our cable. And the further back, the better. Now you can also take and press these out if you want. You can press these out and then you can press them back in. But my experience has been that it doesn't always work quite as easy as you want. I'm gonna see if I can do one real quick just because I haven't done this forever. I haven't tried it for a long time.
Try and see if you can pop one of them out.
Yeah, I don't do this often because I don't always have success doing it and I don't wanna give you guys bad ideas. I wanna give you ideas that I know work. Well, in this case, I think this might work. 5.5 millimeters, is that about the right size? Ooh yeah, 5.5 fits perfect actually. I just don't know if it's gonna pop out or not. Oh geez. It depends on the connector style. Some of them go forward, some of them go back. And I do not know which way these go because I didn't build them. They either slide out this way or they pop out that way and I don't wanna ruin it, so I'm not gonna push any harder.
Okay.
So guys, just
why we don't usually do it that way.
That's why we don't do it that way, but listen. I'm trying to keep a train of thought here, camera crew.
Sorry.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pierce those wires and those wires are gonna be pierced, so it's gonna allow me to slide those naked leads in, and then that's gonna give us something that we need to tape over, so that's why I'm getting some electrical tape. It doesn't have to be electrical tape. And it doesn't have to be a toothpick that you use, but toothpicks just happen to be about the right diameter. I've also used a bunch of other tools, but electrical tape works nice. Okay, so if you can't pull this out, the other trick is you can also hook it and just make a contact point here up against the metal, okay? I'm not a huge fan of that because that gets you all the way out to the end, which is where you're gonna be dinking with it all the time. And plus back here, you see how easy it is to pierce that, right? So now check this out. This is what's so crazy is people think, oh, that's not strong enough. Well, trust me, it is. Because all you have to do is basically make that hole and then force this wire into the said hole. And then get this, it's like getting an IV, okay? Once it's in there, you're touching the wire and it's braided cable, okay? So that braided cable, that's now touching, and all you're doing, it's like touching a multimeter on there, okay? That's all it is. Stay there, please. Mm-hmm. And then I'm gonna take scissors and I'm gonna cut off an appropriate length. I don't wanna take this whole roll and try to put it in there. It's gonna be way too big, especially with this ridiculously short lead.
Yeah.
Stuff like that just pisses me off in this field. It's so frustrating. Like, you guys spend all this money designing this beautiful plane and then you put a piss poor design decision like this. Just no end to my frustration. And it's funny because, you know, I guess in my line of work, the devil's in the details all the way till the end. And if you don't get it all the way done, you might as well just fail, right? It's a 90% is not good enough. 100% is the only solution that works. If it's not 100%, don't even bother.
Well, and sometimes we see annoying things, but once you do it one time, it's set. But you're gonna plug in your battery
every time. Every time. And you build this huge, awesome battery bay, and then you put this short little connector, like, give me a break.
Yeah.
So really, to be honest with you, if you guys are gonna be flying this as an everyday flyer, which some of you may, you're gonna probably want an extension cord. I'm just telling you right now, you're gonna want a male to female, which at least it's an EC5, one of my least favorite connectors in planet Earth.
Right. So they got something right.
It's compatible with the IC5 was the only reason I like it. Which, by the way, the IC5, same exact basic design, but they just go together. I've never had problems with them. See, the metal bent the tip over. So all I'm gonna do is just pierce this, okay? Once you pierce it, you have a braided, very fine thread cable. Very hard to see the hole from penetration. So if you guys have any experience with penetrating holes, you just kind of drag it along there until it slips in, okay? Slide it in. Come on. Now, some of you don't have experience with that, and I apologize. Don't blame me for that. Okay? So that's in.
Is that it?
Yep. So now what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to fold that forward, and then I'm going to tape it. Now, why am I pulling it forward instead of pulling it backward? That's called a strain relief, guys. So I'm going to tape it down opposite the direction I expect to pull it. And then it's not going to translate to basically undoing that connection point, okay? So you see I went along with it, and you're like, but that's the wrong way, Brian. No, it's not. I'll show you at the end. I'll show you how it's gonna work. Now, this is not a perfect solution. The most perfect solution, now I'm pre-tensioning this vinyl tape, okay? So that's I'm pre-stretching it so that it holds it. Then I'm gonna take this and pull it back. And then I'm gonna tape it one more time as a unit. Just like this, okay? So once it's taped like that, you're gonna have a very low probability of undoing that. Yes, you can undo that. Yes, you can yank it off. Yes, it will get hot. Yes, it is possible to come undone. Is it likely to damage your plane? It is incredibly unlikely to damage your plane, but it is not impossible. Just like everything else that you do on a build, there are certain things that you see how I'm pulling that tight? Then the tension from the vinyl stretching is actually going to produce some strength over that connection point, okay? So now you've got the tension compressing everything down together. Now look at that. You have the super strong connection and you did it with a freaking toothpick, okay? Notice I didn't build an A10 with hot glue. If you guys don't know what I'm talking about, just
could use a butter
think
knife.
about it for a little bit. So, all right, the next thing here is we've got that ready to rock and roll. Okay, we've got all these wires. They can just like quite literally be pushed back into this cavity, right? There's no reason to have those up and accessible, okay? And this is the part where I cringe because I just know my fingers are in the way, and I apologize, guys. I do my very best. Also, I hate the fact that they left that naked. What the heck were they thinking?
Well, do we need to figure out if we need it first before you do something to it?
Yeah, okay, fine.
I mean, I don't disagree
All
with
right,
you,
but just listen. 50C 5,000. Is that good enough? What did they say?
Yes, they said a 45C or greater, 5,000 to 6,000.
5,000, 50C, IC5, beautiful, okay?
Yep.
So this should energize us, but we're not bound. So because we're not bound, I can't trust it. I don't know if the gear are gonna pop out. So the next thing I need to do is I need to secure the plane in such a way that I can guarantee I'm not gonna hit there or there, which I'm not, okay? So now I can just slide this back. Throttle cut is on. I'm gonna click and be prepared to bind. Obviously it's not secured properly yet, but that's all gonna be yet to be determined because at some point I have to actually mount this, okay? But until the very last second, I'm gonna keep from mounting it because once you're mounted, you're pretty much mounted, right? Especially the way I do it, which is gluing it in, okay? So I'm gonna undo these heavy duty straps. They are quite nice. I'm gonna take and loosen them almost all the way so that I can just slide the battery in. I have found that these things usually are only problematic if they've designed the battery bay too small. The problem on this one is gonna be, you have to put the battery with the lead back, okay? So you see this big bundle of mess here? There's nothing you can do about it yet.
Do you want me to
Nope.
hold it? Okay.
I don't. Okay, I'm just gonna leave this right here. This wire, however, needs to drop down. That's one thing we were talking about. So I've got my forceps here. Now guys, if you're translating this install to like a carbon cub or something that you got as a plug and play from somebody, don't worry, it's gonna be a little bit different on each plane, but the basic principled setup of the radio setup is gonna be the same, okay? You still have control surfaces like ailerons, you still have flaps, you still have an elevator, you still have a rudder. If you're setting up something with canards or whatever, it's gonna be a different setup. So you're gonna wanna find one that's like that, okay? So now I'm gonna slide this in. The other thing too that irritates people like me that have 2,000 plus videos out there is we have already helped people set up AS3X on thousands, well, not thousands, but hundreds of models.
Hundreds of models.
So that means now everybody is gonna be like, well, what do I do now? Well, you're gonna do the same thing, except you're gonna apply the principles from a video like this to your other setup, okay? Yeah. And yes, the camera crew is just now realizing that, I think.
No,
did you already?
realized it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, how did you not realize that?
No, I did.
Because when you spend a lot of time training people, having one little change, no big deal, right? Until you have to do it 2,000 times in a time machine,
Right.
okay? So you see this plug? Good Lord, that's gonna suck.
Why did you move it down?
Because I have to make room to actually mount this and get the cable management done. So look, so now I have to plug this in, okay? Plugging it in, okay? Beautiful, very bright light, love it, okay? Not bound yet, we're gonna be pressing, flashing, bind, bind, binding. Okay. Now it's auto configuring to get telemetry. This is where we could actually stop our AS3X Plus video and set up all the surfaces and everything and then come back, which we might end up pausing so that we can do that. What do you think, camera crew?
That would make sense probably for now.
Okay, so before we do that, I just wanna make sure surfaces are all moving. Let's check the gear, cycling. Awesome, and then this is not gonna move when I move the rudder because it's not actually, it's attached to the R knob now. Oh. Because that's where it happens to be attached right now. So as you can see, everything is functional. Throttle cuts on, throttle cuts off. I'm gonna give it some throttle. It's in reverse thrust right now, okay? I don't know if we're attached to any switch yet for that because we haven't set up switch G. So we'll go ahead and do that in mere moments. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my gear back up, just to make sure we know now that we're safe. We know that nothing's gonna break itself. And we also need to get flat mode turned on so that we can get those all centered. So we'll do all that. Actually, we gotta do flat mode right now because that's all part of the AS3X Plus setup. So just slide this back. So logical switch setup. Ooh, combo switch setup. Combo switch, switch one. Rudder stick, relation, 2. Oh, that's so cool. So you can do logical mixes now. That's so cool. So you can actually mix a combination of switches to make a certain condition true. Awesome. I haven't thought of a time to use it just quite yet, but I will. Okay. Flap system. We're going to set that to switch B. Now, in this case, I don't know which direction they go, so I got to flip the plane upside down. We're obviously not ready to set up the spatial awareness on this, and we have flashing LEDs.
So can we just flip that little thingy, hopefully?
I don't know. I'm not sure. They're still on.
Yep.
So what does this do? The bottom?
No change.
Look at the bottom.
The bottom
is on.
The bottom is off.
Now, is the bottom going to be on solid?
Flashing. Bottom is flashing.
I don't think it changes anything. So listen, now I'm going to take this little box and I'm just going to go to any of these open ports here, and the polarity is as such. Hey, pay attention to what I'm doing here.
Okay.
This positive goes to the center, and then look, now it's on solid, okay? So it's on solid. And then the flashing LEDs are going to be buried in the wing connections, which is going to be a pain in the butt. So basically what's going to happen is you can either use this flash sequencer to actually run the bottom light and the top light. Looks like the top light and the bottom light are both. Okay, so this, yep, it's actually, there's 2 different lights. So look at this. This is the top light then. Yep, so the top and the bottom. See this, you can actually make those flash, which I actually don't have a problem with those flashing. So I'm gonna make those both flash. See, that's the negative to the negative and negative to the negative. So now we have flash, 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 flash. They're out of sequence, cool. Flash, 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 flash. Yep. That's cool, so they're out of sequence. So that I can actually kind of admire, I like that. But what it irritates me to death is that at this point, we have wiring that goes out to the wings. Ugh. If I want to shut off the stupid flash, I have to cut wires, okay? I'll tell you how to do it. If you want to know how to do it, watch here. There's these 2 white ports. Okay. Those white ports go out the wing. In the manual, they may demonstrate where they're wired, or they're buried in the wing. Or they're buried in the wing. I'm not wasting my time.
Yeah, no.
It is what it is.
Okay.
So we got flashing lights all over the place. So if you guys don't know anything about Brian Phillips RC, I like flaps, I like LEDs, I like nav lights. My nav lights need to be on solid. I want them on solid. You're never gonna see a real plane with a flashing LED like this for a nav light. Nav lights are on because it's a navigation thing. You don't drive around with your headlights turning on and off and your signals turning when you're going straight. That's stupid. So anyway, an anti-crash, anti-collision beacon, and people are like, oh, it's an anti-collision. Anti-crash, anti-collision, it's the same thing, okay? It's the same vernacular. So anyway, and I've heard that a million times too, guys, I'm sorry. If you wanna change the flash on the wings, it's gonna take some effort. I don't suggest wasting your time on it, but you can do it if you want. The good news is, we need to get the flap set up. So in order to do that, I have to flip this thing over. I really would like to figure out where I'm gonna mount this receiver, because honestly, it'd be nice to have it mounted, because we know that everything is functional now. And that's part of this model, and it's part of the AS3X Plus. Guys, remember, this is a spatially aware device. It needs to be mounted in a way that's copacetic with this setup, right? Is that a proper use of that word?
That's an odd use, but it was proper, yes.
Okay. All right, so then you see this is at an angle. That's a bad spot to mount it, because then you're gonna have, you definitely don't wanna mount it at an angle like that, but you can actually correct for that. But the thing I like about this angle up here is it'll be easy to get to. Ooh, I like that. If I can fit it up there, I'm gonna totally do that.
Is there a tab that goes? No,
I don't know. And these are supposed to be at 90 degrees of each other, so I'm just gonna slide those in there and just spray and pray.
Totally like 90 degrees.
90 degrees to me.
Definitely.
Yep, so I'm gonna slide that down. Oh, that would be pretty nice actually, because then it's just the heck out of my life and I can just put it there. Or I can slide this over and I can try to put it on the bottom of that tray. I'm pretty sure I got enough length to do it, but then how do I manage all the cabling then?
Yeah, the cable.
Because let's just talk about that for a minute. If I go this way, I mean, it would definitely go there, hon.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it would for sure, but then look at this bundle. It's going to be just like...
With the stupid short battery lead, I think doing it on the top helps to get your cables.
Yeah, it just forces...
out of the way as they can
it forces them out of the way. So the other thing is, I don't have enough length. I can't do it this way. I got to do it this way. And that's what's so nice about these things is you don't actually have to spend much time putting them in an exact position, okay? They have to be exactly mounted to the aircraft, right? That's about exact as you need them, right? Because as long as it's square in one of the directions, this way, this way, that, I don't know if you can do that way.
I think go sideways.
Yeah, you can go sideways, 100% sure. I've done it before. So, dang it, I had it nicer. What did I do different? Did I just slide it back further? I think that's what I did. These are coax cables too, so don't squish them. Don't kink them, you'll ruin your cable. So I think that's where we're gonna go, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now before I get too excited about that, we need to now check and see if this is gonna cause a problem, and it's not, because this is not gonna dig in like this will.
Right.
Okay. So if you guys didn't pick up on the details there, we're gonna use some China glue here. China glue, FMS China glue. I would highly recommend getting some of this every time you order a model from FMS. It's good stuff, it's cheap. It's every bit as good, if not better, than the UK-based offering of foam to foam. Foam to foam is great, I really like it. There's nothing wrong with it. I do prefer this stuff slightly. And it's about the same price. So it's not like you're getting some garbage. It's actually really good. And it's nice and clear too, okay? So that would be unfortunate if it wasn't. Now, you'll notice it's real stringy and messy, and I just made a big glob over there. And I know some of you are thinking, but Brian, I've always been told, just stop right there. We're telling you, and I'm telling you from personal experience, that you don't need the 3M tape on this type of model. Now, if you're building some really expensive model, I suppose it might be worthwhile. And I haven't done it in AS3X Plus, but I'm gonna just tell you this right now. I've never had a problem with a vibration transferring in, never. Okay, that's a never, as in not like once in a while, it's never happened. So like all these wives' tales that we hear in the RC world, we try to cut through that BS and give you guys good, actionable information. And sometimes that means like, hey, you don't need to worry about that thing. I don't like this at all though, because it's being yanked on just slightly by the cabling.
Do you need to just put it upside down so it can dry? Because we're gonna flip it and do the flaps anyway.
Well, I know, but I need to let that spread onto the ceiling.
Tack up.
Yep.
Okay.
So what I'm gonna do is I don't like doing this, but I just wanna make sure, yeah, it's definitely on there. And see how it's on my fingers? Okay, this is why I like this stuff. Try doing that with CA.
I mean, you can, but your hands
Do that with CA.
stuck together.
Okay, try it, tell me how it works. Okay, so once that sets up for a minute or two, it's gonna have plenty of purchase. I just don't know if I'm like really thrilled about the vulnerability of if it would break loose. So what I may do is once I'm in, I may actually take and pierce through with like a Q-tip or something. Not a Q-tip, a skewer. What am I trying to say?
Toothpick.
Not a skewer, toothpick, there we go. Okay, so now that we have the flat mode started, I have to flip this over. It's considerably heavier with the battery in there, weird. And by the way, just full disclosure, I do not need to do anything to protect what was I trying to say there, hon?
What are you protecting?
Well, that's what I'm trying to remember. I don't need to do anything to protect these servos right now because they're not hooked to anything, okay? So just remember, these things need to be parked at some point. Uh-oh, look at that.
That one is not.
That one is not going home. Not going home at all. Totally unacceptable. Why? Why is it not going home? You guys see what I'm talking about? It's hitting. Where's it hitting? Is it hitting here?
Hitting over there?
Hold on, I'm just gonna pull this down a little bit. I'm just literally using my thumb to pull it down. That's not cool. I don't like that at all. That one's fine over there.
Yeah,
look at that.
One looks perfect.
That one looks fine. See? I'm gonna have to pull that up a little bit to relieve it from the edge. This one's not going to the edge. You see that?
Is it bent?
I don't think so. I don't know if this is mounted too far back. These are devil's in the detail moments, guys. If you don't do this, gravity's gonna take care of it for you, okay? I'm just pulling on this really hard to try to square it. And it's cringeworthy to have to do this. I hate this step.
When it's attached, is it gonna push it in? But like this one falls like perfectly where it's
I understand.
supposed to go.
That's the problem. So what I'm trying to say, hon, is that something isn't glued in right. I just can't figure out which part it is. Those are all square, those are all square. What's it hitting? It's hitting somewhere over here because this gap is open, or is it? Maybe it's over here in this seam here. I don't want to make a big mar in it just for the heck of it. It's definitely hitting. And see, I can only overbend it so much. You know, that's really hard on this. Whatever. It is what it is.
Do you need to stick your receiver down?
I probably could. I probably could. So guys, just to be clear, that's a problem we're gonna have to try to resolve. It has nothing to do with AS3X Plus, okay? So you see this, I've got this nice bundle. I don't wanna have to deal with it, so I'm gonna see if I can go one more loop if I can get it. And it's gonna tighten it. Yes, I was just complaining about that, I realize. I feel like that's probably gonna be too much. But it's nice because then I have zero cable management. I'm gonna have to undo it. I'll have to go one. Okay, so now these two are just gonna get passed in here, just to get past, that's what I didn't wanna do. I didn't wanna stick them into the foam glue. Okay. Now, there is a certain wire that's yanking on me, and I think it's this. And I can undo it. It's the thrust reverse. So thrust reverse is now unplugged. And now I'm gonna plug it back in. And the camera crew is trying desperately to give you guys a shot of what you can see, what you can't see.
She's too short.
Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna try to just get that as square as possible and stick it up there, okay? So yeah, that's probably fine. So now camera crew and I are gonna, well, I'm just gonna wrap these cables around for now. Just kind of leave this here. If you guys don't know, camera crew is my wife of many years. We've been married for like 20 years. We're old.
Long time.
Okay, so that's in there now.
Okay.
All right, and now we've just got 4 stragglers down here. Show the people. There's 4 wires down here. That's really not too bad. That's pretty easy setup for a jet.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's in there. Let's see if we can get the canopy on. If we can't get the canopy on, there is a relief here. So I think the wires are gonna be fine. Please go. Nope, it's hitting. It's hitting on this.
Oh, shoot. The wires are hitting. Sorry. Shadows in the way.
That's exactly what I was afraid of. Son of a biscuit. You guys see how strong that stuff is? Look at this. Look at this. Jeez. I just don't know if I want to change it. Do you? What do you think, camera crew?
It's in such a good spot.
I know.
So
it's
what
like
you're
so
going to do?
easy.
Carve the back of the canopy?
Yeah, I'm just gonna take some of this. Guys, I don't normally do this, but it's kind of like, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes. There's only 400 ways to skin this cat.
Yeah.
And I've evidently picked the way that
Requires extra steps.
Yep.
Yeah.
Should make sense by
Sounds
now.
about right.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm trying to not shadow you.
It's fine. Fine from my perspective, not so much for the viewers watching at home. Pretty simple. Okay. Find the edge, don't get cut. We also took care of those those connectors. You remember those black and red connector that wasn't doing anything? Give them a close-up, an extreme close-up over there, and close that lid. Okay?
Okay.
Are we agreeable on that?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna hang on to this piece of foam.
Of course.
just in case.
I would expect nothing less.
Okay, so guys,
running out of
listen, the flaps were about to get set up, and then we flipped it over to glue the thing because we're thinking about the flaps and how annoyed we are that they didn't work perfectly. Now we're gonna jump back into it, okay? Why flaps? Because we gotta get the flaps set up at some point, right? That's part of the setup. In order to set them up,
Right.
let's look at this. So you got 3 positions. There's 3 positions. I don't know how far they're gonna drive, but it's not attached yet. Why did they not move? That's kind of weird. System setup, disconnect RF. Channel assign?
Oh, it's not attached to 6.
What the heck is NA? No. That I want to disassociate. So it's,
Switch B.
let's set this to 2 seconds. On the fly. Flaps, min, max. Okay, I don't want to mess with that. Okay, so there we go. Duh. Okay, so that's going to be, this is my normal flight mode. So it's going to be, actually you want those to be coming forward. So I'm going to clear and go to a positive value. So I'm going to go to plus 100. Okay, we're not overdriven yet. All right, so when we go to the neutrals, and then we're gonna go to the landing setting, we're gonna go to negative value. So now we at least know what direction we're going. So this should pull these down into the home position right here, okay? So then that should push them out to the neutral position. So we're in the center now. So we gotta put these on right now. Do they tell us in the manual where they expect us to put them? Let's see.
I don't know.
I don't know if they do. They probably won't, I bet. Ah, this is so annoying. I don't even want to have to do this.
There
Ball
are
head.
flaps.
Flaps are on the outside. Outside, outside, outside. So it's on the outside on all of them.
Okay.
Well, that makes that easy. Okay, so first things first, run these a couple of turns. Run them a couple of turns, make it easy on myself.
Were those all the same length?
Yeah, they're all the same length.
Okay.
Okay, so then same thing here, hold on to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And then check for length. Make sure they're about the same. This one needs to go in just a little bit, 1, 2. I want these ones to be real similar when we start because they should be about the same. One more half turn. Okay. So now let's see. So we just line them up. And we're close a little bit more on this one. One more half turn. And then as you can see, we've got, yep, that's, yeah, I think I actually went over shot 1. There we go. So I'd rather defer to having them. That's really dang close. Okay, so that's a good starting point. Now we need to snap these on here at some point. So it doesn't really.
Wait, you have to do that.
Huh?
Are you going to snap them on first or put them in the hole first?
Well, you're right. I do have to put them in the hole first. Thank you for catching that. So I'm going to slide these in. I'm going to twist them around. And then that's going to put me, I'm in the neutral, I'm in the middle setting. So this is going to be a real pain in the neck. See that? So I got to go to the landing setting where they're going to be all the way out or most of the way out. And there's a couple different ways to actually snap these on. You can use needle nose pliers or you can use a proper ball link tool. A ball link tool might be kind of nice on this application, but I don't even know if it'll fit in there. Does that look like enough? I think we need to overdrive those a little bit.
Okay.
So I'm gonna walk out of this menu. I'm gonna scroll back up to servo setup, travel, oops, travel. So for flaps, I'm gonna go to the neutral setting so I can adjust both. I'm gonna go up to 150 and then I'll back it off to like 145. We'll see how much throw we have now. Okay, so we're just hitting the foam here. That's gonna reach out further, which will make it a little easier for us to do this. Now I can always back that off in the menu, but I would say I wanna try to get that same on both sides. And yes, they painted that ball link. So when you slide them on, then the paint comes off, okay? So that's way down there. I don't know if that's really appropriate on this model, but we'll find out. Same thing here. Slide it into the hole, kind of give it a little bit of work back and forth, twist it. I don't like that. Do you see my problem? No, now we're good. Now we're good.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to open this all the way up. Can you go to the neutral setting on flaps, please? Switch B, go to the middle. Thank you. Now go back out to the landing. Perfect. Now, I'm going to just like go by eyeball and I'm just going to push this on without a tool. Ow. I went too far. Show the people.
Too far?
Show the people. See what I did? That happens sometimes when you try to do a ball link without the proper tool. See how it's too far?
Oh.
I pulled it back into the correct position. You want to watch for that, folks. Okay, so now, take off flaps. Okay, this is where you don't want to overdrive your servos, okay? So I'm going to come over here so they can see both at the same time. So I'm going to go down to flap system. Regular flight mode, you see this number, 100? I want to back it off quite a bit, okay? And then I'm going to walk it into the home position. So you see it's not totally collapsed. Now watch this. I can close it all the way down. So remember, that's 81%. So I'm gonna go to like 70. Okay, so you see how this one is flush and this one's popped up? Mm-hmm. That's probably because we're running into the bottom of the stroke. How do we confirm my theory? We're gonna make that 70 higher number. No, it's still dropping. So we're gonna go to 80. Okay. Yeah, see, this one's pulling down further. So what I have to do is I have to make this one agree with that one because we're all the way maxed out. No? Problem is you're gonna burn out your servos if you're pulling them that tight, I think. How do you know? Look at this. Show them from above. Watch when it comes into home position. You see how it's bending that? I'm gonna take that 100, I'm gonna back it off until that bend stops. You see that bend stopping? See how it's straight now? That's at 75. So remember, 75 relative to the 145 on the negative sweep, okay? Mm-hmm. So we're plus 145, minus 145. Spectrum would start out with plus 100, minus 100, or vice versa, whichever way you wanna look at it. So then this is relative to the end of your throw. Okay, so now that means that this one's poking down just a little bit, and I don't like that, but I also don't wanna overdrive it and damage the servo, because these things are going to be hot when they're in that parked home position, okay? Because otherwise that motor is going to be trying to get it to the home position and it won't be able to do it. It'll get hot and it'll melt. It'll actually burn, okay?
Yeah.
So take off flaps, landing flaps.
The deployment looks really even.
It looks even. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to acknowledge that 75. Then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do this. I'm going to back this down a little bit. So takeoff flaps are going to be, let's do 30. So there's your takeoff flaps and there's your barn door landing flaps, okay? So we're going to see if we need it. We might not need that much deflection. It may be overkill, and that's fine if we find out that's true. But this is something you have to do at this stage, okay? So we got takeoff flaps and then we have the barn door landing flaps. I actually have no problem with the deployment on the landing flaps, but I do feel like I want to try to get them the same in the parked condition, which means I need to make this one pop out just a hair. So I'm gonna go to full landing, I'm gonna pop it off, and I'm gonna shoot it out. I don't know how many turns, but that's where these tools come in handy, because I can pop that sucker right off of there, okay? Like that, and then I can take this thing, I can walk it back, okay? And then I can just lift this up. Now I wanna shoot it out that way. So there's 1/2 turn, there's 1 full turn. That's probably what I need. Okay, so now I'm gonna go to landing. Whoops. Then I can take this, slide it back down, and then press it on. Use this thing or you might break your stuff. Okay. So now let's see what we look like for deployment. We look really even there. Okay, now show the people. I'm down. I'm not totally down. And so I don't like that. It's gonna make the plane fly a little bit faster. That's fine. I'm gonna actually take off and go in 1/2 a turn. I overshot, I think. Don't you?
I think 1/2 will be fine.
Yeah.
Might be between the two, really.
You're right, it might be. That's totally true. So I'm gonna actually bring it back 1/2, right? So I wanna
go in 1/2, yeah.
So I'm gonna go in half a turn. Okay. Sorry, gets a little confusing on some of these steps. So now, guys, this is the devil's in the detail kind of work that's going to give you the best possible outcome. And here on Brian Phillips RC, we don't just pretend to give advice, we actually do it. And when we give advice, we have reasons for what we say. Sometimes it's subjective stuff that is really kind of up to you to decide. And other times it's substantive and very, very critically important. And then, of course, if you're brand new to the hobby, dang, that's twice on the same model. I haven't done that forever on any model.
Yeah,
but a lot of what we do here on this channel is trying to get you from in the chair into the air so that you can actually be flying with us and not just watching. Okay, we have pretty good even deployment. And when I say deployment, I mean parked. Okay, so that's where it's going to be. Now, we got to do ailerons, elevator, and rudder. So what do you think, camera crew?
which is really part of the...
This is part of the Avanti build. So what we'll do is we stop right here. We'll pick it back up. And so if you're watching the Avanti build, you're going to see it right now. If you're watching the AS3X Plus, we'll pick back up after we're done putting the control arms in, okay? Okay, so now that we've got all the control rods installed, we're gonna go ahead and pick up where we left off. Okay, so elevator up, elevator down. Roll left, roll right, that's incorrect. Yaw left, yaw right, that's correct. Take off flaps, landing flaps, everything's good there. Let's check our gear. Gear come down just fine, okay? And then once they're down, we're gonna check our yaw left, yaw right. We have no movement, that's because we haven't set it up yet. We will eventually get there. Throttle cuts on, gear staying down this time, okay? Rudder, ailerons, wrong. Click, whoops. Servo setup, travel, reverse, ailerons, okay? Now roll left, roll right, elevator up, elevator down, yaw left, yaw right. Take off flaps, landing flaps. Beautiful, okay, throttle cuts on still. All right, so coming back around here, we're gonna turn the plane around momentarily, but for now, we have to set up something to get that thing steering, okay? So if I scroll all the way down here, there's X plus. Oh, cool, look at that, X minus, pretty neat. All right, so now at this point, we have to set up, at some point we're gonna have to do this, so we're just gonna set this up now. We're gonna set this to switch F. Okay, so switch F. The expo is gonna be 5%, then it's gonna be 10%, then it's gonna be 20%. That was not 20. I'm gonna have to clean that scrolly wheel again. 20, and we'll drop the rates down to 90%. Okay, this on the fly. Man, okay, I don't know what I'm gonna do with that yet. I haven't learned how to use that yet, so I'm not gonna tell you what to do yet. So switch F, same thing. You're like, but you're setting them all to the same switch. That's correct, because we're just trying to set a get to the ground mode. And also, I almost never mess with this. Okay, setting this to 90. Okay, so we have our neutral setting where we're gonna start. We have half and we have double. So this is gonna be more sensitive, neutral, and then half as sensitive. Not quite half as much, but it's twice as much expo and then a little bit less on the rate. So it's just gonna make it a lot softer on the sticks, okay? Set that to switch F. For those of you brand new to Brian Phillips RC, if you want to help support us, buy the planes from the links in the video description below. We get the commission from the manufacturers that we work with. And yes, we do work with them, even though we yell at them when they make stupid decisions, like we've done a couple of times on this build, like not putting the linkages on. Pretty annoying. Okay, so middle. You can also buy the transmitters and the receivers. Obviously, if you're watching this, because this is something you're trying to figure out how to do the AS3X Plus, then you will be finding all that information you need. You can buy the transmitters, you can buy the receivers, and you can buy the programming cable, all from the links in the video description below, as well as the battery. We're using a 5,000 milliamp hour 6S, and that's from Spektrum, so it should work really good for you. Now, what we have to do is at some point, we have to make an attachment for that nose gear, okay? So I'm not 100% sure where we're gonna do that yet, because I know how to do this in mixing. Okay, I'm gonna turn this plane a little bit more for the camera crew. Okay. Okay, so now that we have that right there.
Thank you.
So I'm gonna set up a normal mix. It's gonna be based on the rudder. You can't just exercise it this time, you actually gotta do it. So rudder to, is it aux 3 right now? Yeah, because right now the right knob is attached to it.
Channel 8, yeah.
So channel 8. Okay, so what we need to do now is we want the rate to be, let's call it like 50%. 51. Let's do 50%. And you know what's kind of funny? You could set that for like when the landing flaps are on, you would actually have it less.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because you could tie that to the switch. So I'm not sure exactly how much you want to do, but now when I move my rudder, that should move. It does.
It does.
And it does. But it's going to be also moving from this, so we have to untie that right now. So I'm going to go back out. I'm going to click. I'm going to go down to System Setup. System Setup, Disconnect RF. I'm going to scroll down to Channel Assign. I'm going to unattach that by inhibiting there. Then I'm going to walk back out. Now you could also tie that to the rudder, but then that defeats the purpose of separating the channels, guys. Okay? So, left, right, up, down, yaw left, yaw right, take off flaps, landing flaps. Now, I'm going to be the first one to admit, it is not entirely impossible that I need to set up 2 rudders and make an assignment for 2 rudders, because then AS3X will activate on those channels. But with the AS3X Plus, I should be able to activate the aux3 to function on it. And I'm just not sure how to do it yet, so we're going to figure it out right now. So the first thing I need to do is I need to confirm the position of my receiver, because we glued it in, but I want to make sure that the glue stuck. Okay? If you'll look with me, camera crew, you can see that the receiver is stuck to this. It is totally solid. I'm confident that it's going to stay there. If in any doubt, I'm going to take and pierce through here and make something that prevents it from being able to fall down, even after a pretty minor collision, let's say. A really rough collision, it might pop off, but so will other stuff, okay? All right, so all the control surfaces are working. Now we have to get into the actual AS3X Plus stuff. Gyro settings, first time setup. Make sure the model has been configured, including wing types, all that crap. Okay, next. Okay. Any adjustments, you got to go through the initial setup again. Okay, set the model level. I'm going to do this on its wheels now from now on. If you want to grab that, pull it out for me.
Got it.
Very good. I'm going to just lay this down here. Oh, we also need to set up switch G. Before we do forward programming, we're going to do thrust reverse.
Oh, okay.
Thrust reverse is going to be set up different on an avian equipped aircraft. Just be aware of that. This is basically going to be for FMS Predator ESCs and ESCs that are not smart. So I'm actually going to walk back out and just omit whatever you saw. You can forget about that for now, because I got to go into System Setup, Disconnect RF, Channel Assign. Okay, so you see, we went to channel 7 for, I want to make G 7. So that's going to be my thrust reverse. How do I know that? Because that's where I plugged it, okay? So over here, you can see aux2 is going to be now switch G. So throttle cut is off. It's currently reverse thrust. Now it's forward thrust. Yep. Forward thrust. Okay, so looking at the monitor, so forward thrust is at -100, throttle cut's on, okay? Throttle sticks down. Now what I wanna do is I wanna go to digital switch setup. I wanna select switch G. I want the forward position to be forward thrust, so I'm gonna change that to -100. Yeah, my scrolly is getting so bad, I gotta clean it up. Every once in a while I have to clean the scrolly, probably because I'm like spitting all over it. Okay, so now we're gonna do +100. Oops, +100, and then not -100, but +100 here. Why is it going that way? So no, you can't just reverse this switch, and I'll explain why. Okay, so now we've got reverse thrust and reverse thrust, not pilot fatigue, but we're gonna set up a pilot fatigue since the prop is in the middle of this. It's an EDF, an electric ducted fan, which is protected, so you can actually go to that reverse thrust and not get your dingling cut off or hand or whatever it is. Okay, so now we're gonna go to mixing. We're gonna set up another mix. This one's gonna be normal. It's gonna be, throttle cut is on, by the way. It's gonna be throttle to, is it throttle to throttle? No, I usually set it to switch G to throttle. I can't exercise it, dang it. Where is it? I go this way, don't I? I'm just looking for switch G. There it is. Okay, so switch G, remember, this is not relevant to the actual mix we did for digital switch that I know of. Okay, so the rate is gonna be, this is where I always dink around with it until I get it to work, okay? So you see this is aux 2, so switch G is driving aux 2, so you can see the conditions. So what I wanna do is I wanna make an offset, or I wanna make a rate of like minus 100. What?
But it's only in...
This is only in pilot fatigue.
Yes.
So you're right. So what I gotta do, thank you for catching that. So I need to go to switch, and I need to set that to switch G, and I wanna make it so it's only on this setting. So when it's in the full back, that's pilot fatigue, full thrust, regardless of condition of the stick. So I wanna shut off these two by making them that little grayed out. Okay, so that means this mix is only gonna be active when it's back here, otherwise it goes off. You see that? So now, with that setting, I always just play with it, guys, to be honest. So throttle cut is off, so you gotta be careful on this setting. This is just so I can test, okay? So I didn't do anything. That didn't do anything. That didn't do anything. Ooh, there it goes. Okay, so that's gonna wake it up. You see how it's waking it up? Throttle cuts on, okay? So that's really loud, it hurts my ear holes, okay? So just to be clear, when throttle cuts on, nothing happens, okay? It's still safe. When you're in this, nothing happens. It's just controllable thrust reverse. So it's still reverse thrust, but it's controllable. It's your stick position, and when you go to pilot fatigue, it's really loud, okay? So throttle cuts on, you're totally safe. But just be careful, if you have throttle cut off and you turn it on, with thrust reverse on, pilot fatigue setting, it's gonna go crazy, okay? All right, so that being said, so now normal mode, just out here flying along, I've got my throttle cut off, I'm flying along. Okay? You don't see that. So I'm gonna show you why. Throttle cut's back on. So I'm gonna go back to that mix. Mixing. Okay, so I gotta put this switch to that condition, and I think I'm gonna just reluctantly, I'm gonna have to turn this on, okay? That is ridiculously loud.
Gracious.
It's like hurts my ears. Okay, so my throttle cut is on. Okay. So I'm just gonna do this for a second longer and see if I can get any more. Yeah, that hurts my ears.
Is there a point where it just like blows
up in a million pieces? Probably.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's what we did. So guys, throttle cut's on all the way here. So minus 50 for the offset. You might be able to get a little bit more, but I think that's plenty good. So the idea being is you come into land, you're doing all this stuff, you're getting flap set, blah, 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 all that stuff's happening, and then boom. So here's the other thing you can do. You can set up now, combo switch setup, where you could do a relationship between two switches to make another function only available during that mode, okay? I'm not doing that today because I don't need it, okay? Okay, so now forward programming. It's time, guys. The moment you've been waiting for. I hope it's not hard. First time setup. Next. Next. Continue its level. Set the model on its nose and press continue. Okay, so camera crew is probably gonna have to press continue on this one because it's so big. Remember, we have a plastic nose, but it's clipped on, so you gotta be a little bit careful. Okay, go ahead and click it. So that's how it is. So you can tell how it is. By the way, spring-loaded oleo is soft on the nose gear. Nice. The mains are like way dampened. What the heck? Look at that.
Oh yeah, they are.
Look at that. Why are they?
They need to be worked?
I don't know. I guess we'll find out. I'm gonna just watch it bounce off the runway the first time, and then I'll say, thanks, FMS.
Okay.
All right, so we're good there. Continue. Gain channel is set. This is where we have to now make an assignment. We didn't actually make an assignment.
Right.
Ugh. Okay, so gain channel, we're gonna have to set that. So yeah, dang it, it's gonna make me set something. So we'll go back down to system setup, disconnect RF, channel assign. Okay, this is where it would have been, but we're using that. So we can go to an unpluggable channel now,
Yep.
except I don't wanna use that, so I'm gonna omit that, and I'm gonna omit that because I'm not using it, okay? So I can go up to 11 if I want.
Why would you not just go to 9?
Well, I can go to 9, I guess.
okay.
It doesn't really matter, but I'm just gonna go to 11 because I'm not using it for anything. So I've got the right knob now set there. Then if I wanted to use my sliders for something, I could later.
Okay.
Okay?
That's fine.
There's not like a perfect rationalization for this, okay? So forward programming, gyro setting, first time setup. I still haven't made it all the way through. That's already should be set. So set it level. Continue, set it on snows, continue. You guys notice this moral of the story is the first time setup is kind of a pain if you don't get it all right the first time. Okay, looks good to me. Back on your mains. Okay, orientation 7, gain channel select. Now we know we want to go to 11. So I'm going to go to the, there we go. Is it aux 11, right?
No, it was channel 11. It said right knob. You scrolled past it. Go up. Channel 11, aux.
Okay.
That doesn't sound right.
Whatever, we're gonna apply. It's gonna reboot. I've got a hold of the tailpipe just in case things start to go crazy. Okay, so we'll click, it's rebooted. One dance, that's AS3X. Now, gyro settings. Let's walk out. Elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right, and we have yaw left, yaw right on there. Yep, everything's working. Throttle cuts on. Thrust reverse is all set. We're in forward thrust. We were in pilot fatigue. Whoops.
Oh.
Okay. You can also do a check and balance at the beginning of a startup and check for that. Okay, so we're gonna go back into forward program. Whoops. Forward programming. Gyro settings. First time safe setup. First time safe setup. Okay. FM channel. We want to set it to D. See how it's aux 1 D? So I exercised it and it found it. Continue. See how it's not changing? Hit back. F mode setup. Flight mode channel. See how it says G? That's not changing.
Because aux 1 is not D.
Evidently not.
Aux 1 is flaps.
Hold on a second. Let's talk about this. Are you sure?
We plugged flaps into 6.
So we plug flaps into 6? Mm-hmm. Is that the way we normally do it?
Yes.
Okay. Then G, we happen to be on aux 2, but that's a pluggable.
Yeah, because that's the thrust reverse.
So we need to pick one that's way up high because we don't normally use this channel.
Right.
That's right. Okay, so we got to walk back out, guys. We'll just set it and it's not going to work. I already know it's not going to work. Okay, so watch this. We're going to walk all the way out. We're going to go back down to channel. System setup. Disconnect RF. Channel assign. Okay, now we're going to pick one of these obscure channels up here. So we're going to assign to D or flight mode. Boom. There it is.
Okay.
Okay? Because we already assigned flight mode to D in the F mode setup, right?
Okay.
Walking back out, reassign, we'll reattach to the RF. Click. Scroll down to forward programming. Gyro settings. F mode setup.
AS3X.
It's not D. It is, where is that thing? I mean, it is technically switch D, but it's not on aux 1. Okay, so the FM channel, there she blows.
Hold on,
Now
I'm
watch
getting
this.
I'm getting a glare.
Oh, okay, how about
There,
now?
yep.
Now it's changing. Okay, so we want AS3X active is gonna be off on this. It's gonna be on that, it's gonna be on that. So now we can go back through first time safe setup and we can go into FM mode. It's already set. It just acknowledges it and populates that menu. We can continue. Flight mode 1, flight mode 3. We want to be in 3 for safe. Next, next. Okay, so let's do this. Okay, so it evidently has some roll to it and some pitch. I don't trust it. That's crazy. Let's go look and make sure our receiver hasn't peeled back at all.
Okay.
Okay. Man, my left ear is still killing me from doing that. That was so dumb. Okay, so there must be evidently just a little bit of, imperfections there. Our island is pretty level, full disclosure. Yeah. So I know it's not the level of the island. I hope it's not actually the wheels or something. I don't think it is. Okay. Okay. So we'll just go with it. If that's what it thinks level is, then that's level. I want this to be level, okay? And in this case, I want self-level and angle demand in this mode. I want nothing on that and nothing on that. And I want to have the limits set to 60 up and down. That usually helps a lot with being able to pull away from trees and stuff like that on takeoff. And I'm going to apply, it's going to reset, and you're going to see 2 dances. Okay, ready, set, go. Come on. 1 dance, 2 dances. That tells you that safe is on, or at least active, okay? So I'm going to exit the menu from forward programming, throttle cuts on. I'm in normal AS3X mode, full deflection, less deflection. That's one way, or you can go to safe. You can flip the model upside down, and you should see the ailerons try to find the quickest route to level. So you can see it's trying to roll the plane this way because it's closer to there than that way, which is closer to there, okay? You can also look at the elevator. You see the elevator? See how it's pointed? Trying to bring it up, trying to bring it down, trying to bring it to a level attitude. Level attitude. So it likes that. And then AS3X is not active yet because we haven't given throttle, but I'm just gonna go ahead and probably lay that down for just a second. I'm gonna go ahead and make sure I'm totally out of the menu structure. Throttle cut is off. I'm gonna give a little burst of throttle. Throttle cuts on. Now we see AS3X working. We see all the controls moving. I'm gonna turn the gain all the way up. Look at that rudder. Look at that rudder. Jeez. Holy cow. All the way up, all the way down, all the way. Oh, we're in safe. Going just AS3X now. All the way, 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 all the way. Guys, do you know what you're looking for? Am I making sense of this? Is it easy to see?
Mm-hmm. It is really easy to see on this one, actually.
Okay, so the gain's all the way up. It's gonna resist environmental impact. So whatever direction I'm spinning it, it's gonna try to unspin. It's gonna try to resist that movement, that movement. It's gonna try to resist 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 that movement. If it goes in the wrong direction, you need to fix it, okay? Now, we're gonna check for master gains. All the way down, all the way up, in the middle, off, on. Okay, so it's on, what?
Am I crazy, or does the AS3X sound smoother? Does it sound different?
You're crazy.
Okay.
It's not smoother yet. I don't think there's anything different yet.
There's nothing different
It's
yet?
just about the amplitude and gain, and it might be the servos more than anything.
Maybe it is the servos.
Forward programming, gyro settings, AS3X settings. Okay, see this gain sensitivity? 1x. You can go all the way up to 4, and it doesn't jump. Look, they fixed it. That's kind of fancy.
No 1.5 now. Oh, there was.
So, all the way up. This thing's gonna be nuts now.
Yeah, it is.
Holy crap, look at that.
Rudder moves.
I know. Did I break something just now? No, no. I heard something sound like a pop. What the heck was that? Aileron?
That is so much movement.
So, off, on, off. Okay, so we know the direction of travel. I'm gonna put it back to 1x.
Yeah.
Fixed adjustable, it's adjustable. Capture gyro gains, don't care about that. Stop, lock, release rate. This is new. So flight mode 1, off, flight mode 2. So I don't know what the heck that means, but it's something, okay? Priority and heading. So priority, Okay, not messing with that either. And then the heading. Okay, so that's fine. And I guess I'm gonna go into systems. Oh, nose wheel. Look at this, nose wheel channel. Very nice. Nose wheel channel is gonna be, ooh, what was that, aux 7 million?
No, well, it's 8, so it would be set aux 2.
Oh, good Lord. It's a pluggable. Okay, let's just reverse it and look what happens. That didn't reverse. That didn't reverse. I think you're wrong. Aux 3 was the scrolly wheel. Yeah, so it's aux 3.
Aux 3?
Look, here's how I know. Look, reverse. Off. Ugh. Learn travel. Extended. Okay, so here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna walk all the way out. I'm gonna go back down to my mix. Okay, so where is mix? Walk all the way out, click into the function list, go to mixing. I'm gonna disable this mix altogether by going to this. I'm gonna go to inhibit. I can turn it back on with a flip of a switch in the menu. So now you can see it's not moving, okay?
Correct. Well,
Okay, so now that it's not moving, we can also go over to monitor and we can see what our mix was. So our mix is gonna confirm for us that we were on aux 3 camera crew.
Right.
So forward programming, nose wheel, we know it's aux 3, retract, retract channel, that's, whoops, it's gear, okay? Retract position, ooh, hold on. I gotta switch that, because right now, I have them down and I'd like them up. So I'm gonna go into servo setup. I'm gonna go to reverse gear. Dang it, I wonder if I have to relearn my servo positions. See how I did that? I flipped the switch. Okay, so now when my gear are up, I'm gonna pull this, they're gonna go up. That's the way I like it. This is a personal preference issue. So when these are down, this is down, okay? So now I'm gonna go back into my forward programming, gyro settings, nose wheel, aux 3. Currently they're extended. Gear. Extended delay. I don't know if I need an extended delay, do I?
I wouldn't think so.
Reverse off. Okay, so look, does it move? I don't see anything. Learn travel. Maximize rates for this channel. Move channel to both extremes and then apply. Okay, apply. Okay. I don't see anything. I don't see anything, do you? So next, gear channel, inhibit. Why?
Gain channel.
Oh, the gain channel. Yeah, I don't know. Aux 6, I guess, still. Rate gain, heading gain, hold window percentage, sensitivity priority. Okay, so we can go way up. We'll just go 2 times. Okay, so we'll walk back. It's definitely aux 3, right?
Yeah.
I don't see any movement at all, though.
No, I don't either.
You know what? That's probably because we still need the mix. This is just going to be the stabilizer acting. Look at it moving.
Is it moving?
Gains all the way up. Is it moving?
No.
Just put your hand on it and feel it. Do you feel it moving?
No.
Okay, then it's probably not moving. Okay, so then I'm gonna learn travel again, maximize rates for this channel, move channel to both extremes, then apply for record. Okay, learn travel. I'm assuming I've done that right. I'm gonna actually change well, let's go next. Rate gain. Let's go 50, heading hold, 10%. Nah, I don't see that. I'm gonna leave that at 0 because I don't know that that's what I want. Okay, so I'm walking out, system setup, relearn servo settings, apply, complete. Still don't see any movement. So I'm wondering what I did wrong. I know that it actually was working, but now Definitely it's doing stuff to the rudder. I wonder if I need to go into the mix and make a mix still.
That seems counterintuitive, doesn't it?
I'm just gonna turn it on.
Okay.
Uh-oh, look, now it's definitely
No, it's
not working. Okay, so let's go back in to mixing. Let's go back to, okay, wait, let's go back to forward programming. Let's go back to gyro settings and let's go to nose wheel now. Let's learn the travel now.
There you go.
Okay, now watch this. All the way up. Is it moving?
Doesn't look like it's moving.
That's me.
Yep.
Here, go ahead and move it. Do you feel it? You gotta, okay.
No.
So, come back over here. So if I reverse this, that's not reversing it. So it's definitely aux 6, right? Oh, wait, that's not aux 6. That's
No,
the gain.
channel.
So I think what I want to do is I want to have this 4X just to see if, I mean, you'll definitely be able to see it move.
Does it put stabilization on the nose wheel?
Yeah, that's the whole point.
Oh.
And I don't know if I care about the retract channel. Let's inhibit that. Let's inhibit that. Because we don't care about the extended versus not extended.
But will it retract still if it's not on?
That doesn't have anything to do with the retract.
Okay.
Gear, retracted, extended. Okay?
We're at 15% power.
Okay. So I don't know why it's not working. It's definitely moving. I just don't see it make any move here. I wonder if it's a throttle, like do I give throttle? Oh, it's the throttle cut is automatically built into this. Okay, so we're gonna walk out. We're gonna go to flight mode setup and just verify we don't have anything missing here. That's all correct. Okay. System setup, relearn orientation. Let's double check orientation. No. Gain channel, safe panic mode setup, hand launch assist, and utilities. Nope. Gyro response test. While in this page, heading gains are maximized to help. Okay. So you can definitely see really good. That looks so funny.
Yeah.
You definitely cannot see that tail. That is definitely not working. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and come out of that. Enhanced F modes. F mode 3. Is that what we want?
That's just what you're in right now, right?
No. That's an enable F modes. Oh, there's 3 F modes. I don't think I've missed anything here. So I'm gonna have to do a little bit of research and come back on this. So stay tuned, guys. We'll get it figured out. All right, so we're back. Couple things. We learned you do need to have the mix active, okay? So real quick refresher, okay? We've been working at this for a little bit. So during mixing, I did change one thing. I went to mixing. I changed this to 100% on either side, and I have it on, okay? So that's rudder mixed to aux 3. You need to make sure that that is not one of the primary control flight surfaces, okay? So that can't be like rudder, okay? So don't set up a dual rudder or you're not gonna have anything different happening on it. It's just gonna be AS3X, okay? So then the second thing is when you go into forward programming, I ran into a glitch, okay? I'm gonna show you what the glitch was. I'm not gonna demonstrate it because I don't wanna get into the glitch again. It was a real pain to get fixed. Nose wheel, it kept trying to latch onto gear here. So don't highlight that. Once you get it right, just leave it aux 3 or whatever you set it to, okay? I have my gain channel also set to maximize the output for testing. Gear retract is going to disable the stabilizer when that thing is parked up in the bay, okay? Believe it or not, it takes about 5 seconds for these things to actuate, okay? So currently it says they're extended. When you flip them, it should update that to retracted. Let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I was counting pretty quick, so let's just say 5 or 6 seconds. We could probably go to 6 and be safe, okay? So that means it's gonna start that function after 6 seconds of deployment, right? So it just knows that. Then you learn the travel by moving it both ways and then leaving it neutral and accepting. Now, if you were to reverse this at this point, it would probably work. But what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go next. This has to be turned more than 0. It was at 0. Watch what happens when this is at 100%. Watch this. Watch that nose wheel. Resisting, 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 resisting. And you'll notice, watch this. Nothing. Nothing.
Oh, yeah, I can see.
Because we're just dealing with that thing right here.
Nice.
Okay? So it's good to be able to see that. Also, see this knob? Watch this. This is going to be harder to demonstrate because it's a left-right. See how it's down? There's nothing. Mm-hmm. Hun, turn that knob. Turn the right knob for me. All the way up.
All the way up.
All the way down.
All the way down.
All the way up.
All the way
Flip
up.
the AS3X D switch off. Flip it to safe. Flip it back to AS3X.
AS3X.
Okay? So as you can see, it is functioning as a property of AS3X now. Okay? I have it at 2x gain with 100% factor of rate gain, and then the heading gain is gonna basically kind of lock it in the position it's going, and it's gonna delatch. I don't know how much percentage basis we want on that. We have to play with it, okay? But aux6 is definitely gonna be attached to our main gain, okay? So it's gonna be a function of whatever our main gain is plus an additional X amount, okay? And I'll try to go a little higher then. How about that?
That's good.
So 2x and the priority is 180. I haven't played with that. You could also go to 4x and it's gonna be a function of that times more. Okay, so now watch. Now it's gonna be like super intense, but I'm gonna turn it all the way up. And as you can see, it's pretty intense. So I'm gonna put this back to 2x and I'm gonna leave that at 100, okay? So I'm gonna walk out.
Tip up a little bit.
It might be a little bit too much, but we're gonna walk back out. And what happened is in my nose wheel setup, it tried to latch onto gear here because I must have accidentally functioned it when I was in this menu. The lighting is terrible for this, isn't it? So, because I'm under the wing, let's move over a little bit. So as you can see, now that it's gear, it's working fine, okay? If this ever sticks on gear, good luck getting it out. I eventually got it to flaps, got it to take flaps, and then adjusted it back out because it tries to learn that position. If you highlight it, it's also looking at the gear in this menu. So it actually latches onto the gear setting, which in this case is the different channel, okay? So now that that's done, I can also go into system setup, and then I can go back to, where is that? Gain channel, no. Where was AS3X settings? There it is. Where's the test menu?
Where was that?
Yeah, that's weird. I thought it was in there. Gyro settings, system setup. What the heck? It's not under safe. F mode setup, no. Nose wheel, no. Aux, did it disappear?
What's other settings?
No, no.
Where did that go?
I hate it when features disappear. That's so frustrating. You're trying to teach people how to use stuff and then stuff just disappears. It's bizarre. Okay, so system setup, it's gotta be under this. Reload servo settings, gain channel, save panic, hand launch. Yeah, it's not there.
Is it under AS3X settings? Where did it go?
I don't understand. This is so bizarre because they had the setup. Well, whatever. Okay, so we're gonna reboot everything and see if everything works. This is one thing you gotta do once in a while. Throttle cuts on. My gain is set to about 50%. We're in AS3X mode. We're gonna reboot this thing, make sure everything still works because this is the first time I've utilized this system, okay? So we're gonna go ahead and unplug this, not AS3X, but AS3X Plus, okay? So I wanna show you one other thing you can do. I'm not gonna do it because I don't need it on this plane, but it's really cool because now we can have access to it, which is really nice. Okay, so we're gonna reboot, let everything come up to speed like normal. We're gonna leave it on the plane stand just so it's easy to demo this. One dance, two dances. Also, you'll notice that my nose wheel is already working, but none of the rest of the stuff is because we haven't throttled yet. So the nose wheel gain works right away. If it's off, it's not working. So that's good to know. So it's a little different function, okay? So now we can go into, I wanna see if this woke up. Forward programming, gyro settings, system settings. Yeah, I don't see it. Save panic mode setup. Nope, don't see it. Orientation. Nope, don't see it. Gain channel select. Don't see it. But this is one thing I wanted to show you. See all these gain channels you can set up? So you can actually have multiple gain channels now, which is totally weird. Okay, and then you can also go to aux output settings, aux output wizard. This will guide you through setting up a custom control surface, selecting the source channel from this output. Okay, so the source channel would be, you know, something like, let's say it was your rudder. You know, you could set it to aux 3 or you could set it to whatever the standard setting is. But what you do is you set it to that source channel and then you can make that control other stuff. Now, I'm not gonna do anything in that yet, but that might be kind of nice for like canards or some other weird surface that is unusual on a plane. Oh. So I don't know exactly how I'm gonna use that in the future, but it's pretty cool that we have access to that now. And I really don't understand because we had that thing that restore from backup, save to backup. So frustrating. Because I swear that was in there, wasn't it?
Yeah, because we tested it.
And see, here's your gains, which have fixed numbers, but they're supposed to be fixed adjustable. Yeah, they're all adjustable. They're off, and then they're adjustable. Okay, so we're good there. I don't understand. Where did it go? I know for a fact it was in there. We already demonstrated it in the video. So stuff like, if you guys have that happen, leave it in the comments below. It's pretty annoying. Also, because you have like unlimited channels, you can set up a panic button really easy without giving up a channel, which is super cool actually. So I don't generally set up panic buttons, but if you wanted to set up panic, you could set it to like switch I or something like that. I've always thought it was kind of hard to get to switch I myself. And then aux output, other settings. Yeah, definitely don't see it anywhere. It's so weird. All right, but the good news is now we can also jump into telemetry. We can make sure that we have volts. We don't want alarms for that. Obviously, it's not a 1S LiPo, it's a 6S LiPo, okay? And we don't want any warnings there necessarily, but I do want that on there. RPMs I don't care about. Vario, I don't want the Vario. So I'm actually just gonna, I mean, I can leave it on. And if you really wanted it, you could turn it to like switch C or something like that by just highlighting this and turning it to switch C. But in this case, I'm actually just going to inhibit the display because it's a waste of space on this. I don't need it yet. The altitude might be kind of handy, except if we accidentally show it. You can have an alarm if you would accidentally, you know, go past 400 feet.
For volts, you want a low battery warning though, right? Or are you just gonna watch your...
See, it went to 7. Gotta love it. Okay, so yeah, you can set this and then the alarm would be probably a voice.
Not at max though, but at min.
Oh yeah, you're right. Good point. Thank you, camera crew. So we'll go voice. And then what we have to do is we have to figure out what we feel like is a suitable alarm-worthy level.
Right.
And so in this case, if we have 6S, so let's say we want to be at 3.3 volts times 6, is going to be 19.8. That's pretty low.
That's pretty low.
So I would say, so let's say 3.6 times 6, we want to get a warning at 21.6. So the first time we reach 21.6, the problem is you might sag to that level on a takeoff. So let's hope it doesn't keep doing it. And you can do status reports and warning reports. So status reports, you can set the duration. So every like 60 seconds. And then warning reports, you would do like every 10.
I don't think you want a status report at all. Do you want a status report every minute that you're flying?
I don't know. Might be kind of nice. Let's inhibit the warnings. Let's inhibit that. But you can do it if you want it, guys. Okay, so now when you walk all the way out, you can see that. There's your volts, altitude, and then all the AS3X stuff, okay? So now the other thing too is, if you go into here like RPMs, I don't care about that. Volts, I do care about. Empty. Altitude, it's kind of nice to have, but I don't want it on there. The gyroscope, I don't ever read. The reason I don't want that is because if we have a oopsiekins, we don't film it.
Right.
Just
because then it takes that screen out of there, right?
Yeah, because then it just basically doesn't show. Now, just so you guys know, it exists, but I just don't want to have an oopsiekins on camera.
Right.
So now let's also do this. Let's go timer. Let's set the timer. Let's set it to 3 minutes. Anything over 25 is going to start it, activate it. I want it to clear with the clear button. At 1 minute, I want a voice, voice. At 20 seconds, nothing. At 10 seconds, I want a voice countdown. And then at expiration, I want tone and vibrate with every minute a tone thereafter, okay? So that sets up all the settings for this plane. That also sets up the AS3X Plus. Basically, there's so much more that you can do, and we haven't even learned all the ins and outs of it. So just to be totally frank, if you guys are watching this video, you watch us go from daylight through the entire flying hours of the day, the beautiful afternoon, evening, just so we could set up AS3X Plus. So you're welcome, because I would have liked to be out flying this. If this was AS3X and safe, I would have already been done by a long shot, okay? So just remember, this is the first time we're doing it. It's not gonna take us that much longer to set this up. But having the nose wheel stabilized additionally could be the difference between a fun flying plane and a huge pain in the butt flying plane. Truth is, it could also overcorrect and oscillate and cause the plane to crash too. I'm not sure what to expect. But the good news is, we're gonna go into forward programming, we're gonna make a couple of minor adjustments, or on the fly, in a pinch, I can shut it off right there, okay? One switch, that gets us back to where we go, or I can turn the gains way low and then just have it, a function of that. So the idea is when you set up a new program, whether it be AS3X Safe or some other conglomeration of stabilizers, auto leveling functions, or flight controllers, you always want to make sure you give yourself an out so you can get the thing to the ground, make the necessary adjustments, and then go ahead and go back at it. So elevator up, elevator down, roll left, roll right, yaw left, yaw right. And if you'll look, we have a yaw left, we have a yaw right on our gear. We have gear function. As that's functioning, we'll go ahead and test our takeoff flaps and then our full barn door landing flaps, which are ridiculous. That's probably too much. But everything is working in the correct direction. Full stick down, off, and safe. Limited bank angles. Everything is working. We've showed you how to set up AS3X and safe. We've also showed you how to set up the nose gear. Just keep in mind, the nose gear for me felt glitchy because it tried to latch onto gear for the actual moving channel, which in our case was aux3, okay? We may have mistakenly set that wrong at the beginning, and that might have caused forward programming to kind of veer off into left field, okay? If that happens, the thing about forward programming is that you're entering into a menu that's setting values, and then if you disconnect, those values are set. So when you enter back in, if you save them, okay? So if you save them and you were to de-energize the system, it's it's probably already saved. So plug it back in, go through the full setup, make sure you relearn your positions, okay? Relearn your positions if you make a big change, okay? That's important. Also, this is a big plane, it's a fast plane, it's obviously not sub 250. If you decide to do remote ID, go for it. If you don't, I don't care, it's up to you. Fly in Frias if you want, whatever. It's up to you guys, just be good neighbors, be good representatives of the hobby as good as we can be. And remember, these things are awesome. There's a lot easier ways to make a buck than building foam airplanes, okay? So let's reward the companies when they make stuff we want. Let's reward them when they do the things that we ask them to do. They're doing all the things we're asking them to do. The only thing we need to do on this plane that we haven't done yet is mark the center of gravity. How are we doing on battery?
We're getting close, but we're
okay. So I've got the gear down, millimeter marked, 125 to 135. Gosh, I hope I can measure that. So it's from the wing root, right?
Yeah.
125 to 135 I can mark. Okay, so
mark on the top to test upside down?
Yep, it's gonna test upside down because of the gear. Okay, so here it is. So I'm gonna mark right here, just lining it up by eye. Okay, so there's one dent. And coming out here, I want to get it out about the same amount so it looks right. One mark, and then I'm going to go to 135.
Yes.
Okay, so 135, folks, lining it up. It's going to put us right on that black line, okay? So that black line may not always be exactly right. So just remember, guys, never trust a decal because the decal may be applied a little bit different. But you can usually trust a jig mark, okay? A jig mark is not the same as a decal. A jig mark would be a paint mark. That's paint, that's paint, that's decal. Okay? There is a difference. Yes, I'm darkening these and opening up the mark just a little bit with this felt tip marker. They work really good. Haven't said it for a long time, but special thanks to all you guys that have sent us tools over the years. Not the least of which is that tool I was just using. So now that I have my markings, can you tell which hole I'm on? The front hole?
Front hole.
The front hole, it's tail heavy. The back hole, it's about, I would say, very close to perfect, as in balanced. That is a perfect place to start a beautiful new jet, okay? If you're too tail heavy to start, you may have a hard flight. I'm not saying some people like tail heavy flights, like Two Brothers loves it. I'm not big on that because I do a lot of Cobra maneuvers. But if you're into Cobra maneuvers, you're probably gonna wanna get the tail heaviness back quite a bit, and that stands to reason. When you have AS3X Plus, you have more stabilizer to use. I don't even know if I've set it up good enough. We're gonna find out.
Yeah.
But the truth is, that's what we do in this hobby. We take you from the package into the air, from the chair to the air. Depending on what we're talking about, that's what we do. We hope we have gotten you from the chair to the air on this and we haven't given you bad advice. Truth is, if you watch the maiden flight and we had a lot of difficulties, you'll understand there may be some more touch up to incorporate into your first setup if you're just getting into AS3X Plus, okay? Obviously the firmware update was pretty easy on the transmitter. Worst part is getting the Wi-Fi to attach, typing in passwords, which is a real pain in the neck on these things because you have to scroll them in. Avanti 90 millimeters, 18th anniversary from FMS, looks nice. It's big, reminds me a lot of the Viper, to be honest. It is an Avanti airframe. I like the Viper a lot in the 90 millimeter. It's an excellent plane. So far, if this is half as good as that, I'd be very happy with this plane. Not crazy about the livery. You may have caught on to that at the beginning, but it's not my plane to design. It's just, I'm not crazy about the gold and the black and the red. I would rather see white, to be honest. I think the gold, it's probably something that's gonna grow on me though, honestly. But like in matters of preference, the customer is always right, so you guys get to decide what you like. I hate the flashing lights. I already know I hate that.
Yep.
I don't mind these flashing. That's kind of cool, I think.
Right, but
if it's an anti-crash beacon, it can flash all. I want these on solid, guys.
Yeah.
I want to see it right now,
always.
This millisecond and not the next millisecond.
Yeah.
Because that might be the difference between smacking into a tree. And we've done it a number of times on FMS products. We've also done it on a lot of other branded products. So hopefully we answered all your questions. We're not doing the thrust vectoring. Some people might want the thrust vectoring. If you do, remember, that would be where you could set up one of those auxiliary channels for stabilization. So when you use it, you could tie it to a switch where it could be on during that switch, and then you could move and the thrust would be pointed, but also stabilized at a different rate than the ailerons, elevator, and rudder, which is pretty huge. And yes, you could have already done that on a regular conventional AS3X, but now you can do it a lot easier. So just remember, there's a lot of things we can use the auxiliary functions for. Stabilization through differential thrust, maybe. That could be pretty sweet. And I can think of some other things, but I'm not gonna get into it now because canards, things like that, are just something I haven't played with a lot, so I'm not sure how it's gonna work. That being said, we hope we answered all your questions. This build went actually really smooth.
Yeah, it did.
11 pieces on a jet this size is incredible.
Yep.
Now I get to go update a bunch of receivers. It's gonna suck bad, so wish me luck. It's actually not that bad, it's just a lot of them.
It's just gonna take time, yeah.
So we'll get that done, and then going forward, we're gonna have the AS3X Plus to use, and if we don't ever separate out the nose gear, it's probably not gonna be of great assistance. But I've also heard that just the stabilization in general, even if we're just dealing with a standard 4-channel plane, is supposed to be good enough that you're like never wanna go back. And you won't be able to go back because you're gonna have it on. Remember that,
Right.
guys. Once you update from the version 2.XX to 3.XX, in this case from ours was 2.48 up to 3.13, then you're not going back because there is a conversion mediator firmware change that prepares the receiver to receive the 3.13. And if you don't install that, you can't go to it. And if you do install it, then you can't go back.
Yep.
So let's hope it works.
We have lots of other planes that haven't been updated.
That's true. I could tear the receivers out. You know we do that all the time.
Yeah, I know.
All right, guys. Also, just wanted to say oleos on these landing gear look really nice. These ones on the mains are like way like spongadelic. Like
Yeah.
they feel like struts. So I don't know if I just need to work those or what the deal is, but I am excited to see how this plane flies. I'm sure it's gonna perform really good because, to be honest, the Avanti is a really popular sport jet, and I don't think they're gonna give us their secondhand offerings. But from our perspective, there were a lot of hiccups in this release. And so we hope that FMS doesn't do that from now on because they might be doing it with other people. That being said, happy flying, guys. Here at Brian Phillips RC, we're all about our audience and what our audience needs and wants. And so we're gonna do our very best to deliver. We hope that the AS3X Plus was enough help to get you in the air. That doesn't mean I'm gonna do every detail because some of you are gonna go really balls deep and some of you guys are gonna be very surface level. I just need enough to get in the air.
Right.
We're trying to strike the balance where we show you how to do it without completely overwhelming the people that don't need it or want it. So we are trying desperately to hit that middle, okay? And we hope we accomplish that. All right, stay tuned, guys. If you're watching just the AS3X Plus and you say, hey, I wanted to see the Avanti flight, yeah, that's gonna be a maiden flight for this or maiden flights for the Avanti 90. And if you were just watching this and you wanna see the rest of the unbox build radio setup, that's gonna be the Avanti, the FMS Avanti 90mm unbox build radio setup, which is gonna encapsulate all of the AS3X Plus steps as well, okay? So it's the first time we're gonna do a breakout like that, but that breakout will hopefully help people that just need a little bit of AS3X Plus help.
And if it was choppy, we apologize. We'll do our
It's
best.
the only way that we
put
could
it-
do both together.
Yeah.
So we apologize. That was my idea. If you need to blame someone, blame me. I knew you already did. And leave it in the comments so we can read about it.
Yeah, it's not my fault.
Yeah, definitely not the camera crew's fault. So guys, Avanti, sweet. We hope it's as good as it looks because it does look pretty good. Like I said, preference, color, whatever, take it or leave it. But I'm still happy. It is pretty gorgeous airframe, if you ask me. And there are people that don't like the Avanti, but I'm not one of them.
They don't like the Draco either.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't like the Draco too, but I don't know. Just, it's something, there's something about airplanes. Some people just don't like certain airplanes.
Yep.
I tend to like them all. Even the really, really, really ugly ones. There's a time and a place for them. So, all right, stay tuned. So much more literally right around the corner on Brian Phillips RC, and I got to go get them and update the software right now. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. If you want to help support Brian Phillips RC, you can buy this plane from the links in the video description below. You can buy this transmitter or one like it if you don't need as many switches or you don't want the sliders. You could get the NX8 and you still get up to 20 channels. And then if you get the NX7E, you can actually get all of the basic functions. In fact, I don't think there's sliders on it though.
There's not, no.
But the thing is, you can actually get 14 channels on this now. So it's plenty to do everything we did on this model. And that is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
So NX6 only gets you up to 14 as well, just like the 7E, but you're not gonna have the right knob or the roller knob, they call it. It's not an R knob because it's the right side, but it's a roller knob. And if you get the NX8, you're gonna have all the features of this with the exception of the sliders, and you're gonna have the cheaper gimbal style. I don't think the Hall effects make a bit of difference, okay? Maybe they do and I just don't realize it, but I've used the 8 forever, never noticed a difference. So just my 2 cents. If you wanna save a couple $100, save it on a plane, not on the transmitter. That's the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. If it comes with a lanyard and a bigger battery, it's probably cheaper to buy this anyway, okay? But there's a big jump in price to the 10 because of the Hall effect sensors on your gimbals. So just remember, if you don't need it and you don't buy it, but you can accomplish 100% of your goals still, you know, you do you, right? We're gonna have links to it, follow it, buy it, you'll still help support Brian Phillips RC, okay? All right, hopefully we answered all those questions and more. Oh, if you don't wanna support us by buying planes and stuff like that, you can also do Patreon, which is a monthly support. Thanks to our special Patreons, we had one here this week. We had one that helped us line up a full-scale landing. Yes, we had a Cessna P172D that landed in that field right there on our property. It was awesome. We have video coming very soon. We hope you guys have already seen it actually by now.
Yep.
And then we also had another supporter that was a longtime subscriber, a couple of years deep, and he came in here, he had some family vacation, and so he just stopped. And so that was cool. And this stuff happens all the time. So we appreciate you guys. It's very real. Just remember, just because you're watching this on a screen someday doesn't mean you couldn't be out here flying on a runway. Okay, it happens all the time actually. So hit us up if you're curious. That's more of an email thing probably, guys, just so you know, or hit us up on Patreon. Oh, if you want to support us in other ways, we also have YouTube Super Thanks, which is one-time donations. YouTube keeps 30% of that. And then YouTube members, that's a monthly support thing. They also keep 30% of that. Patreon keeps like 18% on average, or some, like if you're overseas, it's worse. If you're domestic, it's a little bit better. But just figure on about 18%. And then PayPal, friends and family, that's just like straight up, whatever it is. So whatever meets your fancy, if you insist on it, we still think the best way to do it is to just buy amazing aircraft that you love. And if you hate this one, don't buy this one, buy the other one you do like. Buy the Viper. We don't care which one you buy. We just want you to be in the air, flying, and just really enjoying this hobby with us. That's what we're here to do. We're not here to just try to eat like dollars and cents off of you. Remember, it's not just about the dollars and cents, although there is, you know, value there. There is weight there. It does matter to us. But Nolan, the kid that helped us line up the full scale landing, that was huge, invaluable, okay? If that wouldn't have happened, I could have made huge mistakes.
Yeah.
So thanks, special thanks to Nolan, thanks to Joel for doing that. We really appreciate it. We know you're putting yourself out on the line when you do stuff like that, so thank you. And guys, it's like I said, it's not just about the dollars and cents. It's about growing the hobby. It's about enriching our lives in a way that we both and all of us can love together. So let's do it. Let's do more of it, and let's just enjoy it together. So stay tuned. So much more right around the corner. Come back for more.